Welcome, everyone. Today, we are having a discussion on misogyny and a forum with some very wonderful people. I'm very happy that we got some great people to speak today. This has been something that I've been wanting to do for a little, not haven't been wanting, but I think that's something that's important to talk about. So I just want to go around, talk about, just introduce yourself, name, pronouns, and just socials or whatever. So I'll start with, I guess, B. I'll start with.
Hi, I'm B. I'm the comrade B on TikTok. I use any pronouns. I'm 15.
Yo-yo.
Hi, I'm Yo-Yo. I'm Philip Sonic here on everything. I use any pronouns, but I like a good neutral they, them, and I'm 17.
Melina.
Hi, I'm Melina. I'm 17, and my socials are just one Melina G _.
And Ziora.
I'm Ziora. I'm 18, pronouns she, they. I entered with my @ on TikTok.
Awesome. So we've had a recent amount of events on TikTok, and I honestly think that, and we were talking about this right before the stream, I think this has been something that's been swept under the rug for a while, and I know you guys have a lot of thoughts on it. So to be honest, I'll just let y'all kick it off wherever you want, and I know you guys have a lot to say.
Yeah, before we went live, we were talking about how every time that Yo-Yo and I have brought it up, all the comments have been I'm so sorry, aw, and then never done anything about it. It's been very unproductive.
Yeah, not very constructive at all. I think another thing to keep in mind while we have this discussion is the use of language when we're describing people who are affected by misogyny versus not. Because I see a lot of people saying mask people when they mean people who are not affected by misogyny, and femmes when they're talking about people affected by misogyny. I think it's really important to make the distinction that you can be masked and still be affected by misogyny, and that's really an issue around gender presentation, which is up to the individual themselves and not having really to do with structural forms of oppression most of the time. But I just wanted to put that out there. It's probably best to use misogyny affected and misogyny not affected for the purposes of this discussion.
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll keep. I guess I'll ask some questions through this, or just get thoughts on guys. So I guess first off, I'll start with flirting and objectification, which is something that's been a topic of discussion for a while. I would ask, what you guys. I guess I'll go around and ask what you guys' personal takes on flirting, public flirting, and then obviously, objectification. We can all agree is a bad thing, but I guess what you're taking, what it stems from. So I guess I'll go around.
Yeah, I think one thing I notice a lot is especially under femme presenting individuals, but like Yo-Yo said, I don't want to just use that term, but specifically on political TikTok, a lot of people will post walls of text, and all of the comments will be hey lol, and completely disregarding the content of the text, because you see an attractive person and your first thought is to completely disregard what they say and just focus in on their looks. I don't understand why that's such a common thing.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I see a lot of people taking advantage of the fact that a lot of conservative women don't believe in feminism, and they don't think they don't believe in feminism, and so they think that that's a free reign to go and objectify them as well, because not only do they not believe in feminism, on the stream last week I was talking with Aggie. If it was one of us in the Rihanna Sun situation, our leftist counterparts would defend us immediately. But seeing as a lot of right-wing men don't believe in feminism, they don't believe in objectification as a bad thing or a serious thing, Rihanna's pretty vulnerable, I guess, because her male counterparts or her mask counterparts aren't exactly there to defend her, and then her herself doesn't seem to she's not a feminist or believe in that sort of thing. And so I feel it's a lot of taking advantage of on leftist people's part when that situation was going on.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then people kind of disregarded, they justified it by the fact that they that she didn't really believe in feminism. So they took that as like an open door to kind of go ahead and say those things, which is like unproductive when a lot of our goals is to eliminate misogyny and eliminate those almost like microaggressions against her based off of her looks and stuff.
And again, like, I hate that the situation has made me defend Rihanna Sun, but she did not deserve that. She really did not. And also, it just seemed like a lot of misogyny towards leftist women or leftist feminine presenting people when we brought up our discomfort and we were disregarded and we were met with gaslighting, we were met with arguments, and like even when feminine presenting like trans people came forward and they were like, hey, this really made me uncomfortable for you to be simping in a transphobe's comment section. The backlash from that, like, it was wholly unnecessary.
People get so quick to defend themselves when people are like, oh, it makes me really uncomfortable that you're simping over someone who's like anti-LGBTQ in their comments, and then they're so quick to be like, she's attractive, it doesn't matter, like,
right,
okay. Like,
or saying it's just a joke, and like, but you can't tell it's a joke at that point because you're not like using any like context behind it or explaining, and even then, if it is a joke, you're still affecting people,
right,
and just like you said, the gaslighting of it all.
I noticed. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, even on the other side of things, like when I see people who are not affected by misogyny try to take accountability for this kind of behavior, they're finally receptive to us telling them that it's harmful and dehumanizing. Oftentimes, they'll try to correct it by asking for forgiveness. And I feel that this kind of feeling like they're entitled to forgiveness by us is not productive at all and really doesn't do anything to solve the issue, because it takes this kind of real vulnerability with yourself to really unpack like the things that you feel subconsciously to really truly understand why these things are wrong. Because like I've talked to people who are not affected by misogyny who like felt bad about objectifying women on TikTok, and then suddenly they're like making jokes about other people who do this. It's like, but you haven't really taken accountability for your own actions yet, so how are you supposed to like meme about it when that you're still guilty of this?
Definitely. And like piggybacking off of what you said about like always asking for forgiveness, like I feel like they're always like, I'm so sorry I did that, like I never meant to offend you, but they never ask what they can do to improve upon that. Like, I feel like there's such a big lack of asking us how we feel and like how they can improve.
And trying to understand it and like what it like is like to experience it. Because you can say, oh, I recognize something is wrong, but without trying to properly understand it, you're never gonna truly be able to correct those behaviors.
Yeah, like this is something I talk about like pretty frequently. Like a lot of the time it feels like I'm talking to a wall when I'm like, stop like objectifying me in group chats because I'm gonna find out, and like it makes me uncomfortable. It's like talking to a wall because people will continue to do so if they don't think that you're gonna find out. A lot of the time they like just completely disregard it, and it's just so annoying. Like half the time we're talking to a wall.
I just want to say, Liv just joined, Olivia just joined, and Nyla just joined. We were talking about objectification, flirting, and also just you know. And I'll just let you guys both in the conversation, I guess, what you're...
Oh, yeah, fact, Bella. Do you remember over the summer when Cudby felt that it was his obligation to list every single attractive left-leaning person on political TikTok?
Yeah.
Fun time.
We were in a group chat talking about like some, I think it was objectivism versus subjectivism, and Cudby like hops in there and was like, oh, here are the most attractive like people on political TikTok, and started like ranking them. Like there's a video on my friends only somewhere. But like I don't understand why you feel the need to do that. Like,
and also I don't know if any of you guys said this yet because I wasn't really on, but like the second that you say something that like someone disagrees with, it's like, oh, this is like a woman moment. Like,
yeah,
oh, of course
it's
woman
a woman. Shut up, woman.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And like also like when people first join the political TikTok community, you know how people will like post those videos where it's like looking for leftist mutuals or like looking for anti-capitalist mutuals. All the comments, like I feel like in femme presenting people's comments will always be like debunk the ECP, like always challenging whether or not they're actually anti-capitalist. And then like typically and like mass presenting people's comments, it'll be like, hey lol, like complete the mutual. Like I feel like people who are typically like that. I know Yo-Yo wanted to stray away from this, so I'm like just pointing out on political TikTok. Like I feel like a lot of people will challenge specifically people that they perceive as, you know, feminine or attractive more so than other people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think there's also a weird kind of culture that exists just by nature of us being on TikTok, this app that it's like a Chinese dancing app. Like people are not supposed to talk about politics or academics on this app, yet here we are. And it's, I think, really complicated, but really important for everyone to understand what is and isn't appropriate in certain contexts. Like, I remember I was on a Zoom call with some people talking about this stuff a few nights ago, and they were like, what's the solution? Like, should I not post any thirst traps? Should I only talk about politics on my account? Should I not like show my outfit or like do makeup or whatever on this account because I don't want to get hit on? It's like, well, it's difficult because a lot of the time for people, I mean, I'm sure most of us here post like different kinds of content on our accounts. And I feel like often people who are not affected by misogyny, acting as though anything goes just because somebody posts multiple kinds of content is pretty harmful. But also the fact that we get hit on and flirted with in our serious videos too really definitely contributes to the harmful thing that is people affected by misogyny in political spaces not getting taken seriously and being flirted with and things in like purely academic settings.
Yeah,
I was
agree.
talking to
that,
somebody.
like,
Yeah. Sorry. No, I was just gonna mention I was talking to one of my mutuals and she was like, yeah, I was in this political science class in my university in a Zoom and somebody was private messaging me asking me for my Instagram. I'm like, that's the same thing that we're dealing with here almost.
Even
Yeah, I
like,
think that it's like you were saying before, like no matter what you post, I think you're going to get like sexualized eventually. Like I think that like there are people that just don't respect boundaries, especially because when you're scrolling through TikTok, you'll get like a thirst trap, a dancing video, and then maybe a political video too. So I think a lot of people are still in the mindset of like this is all entertainment and this is all meant to almost like a lot of it's meant to be like sexual. So they like will see a femme presenting person just making a political video and they're still looking at it with the same mindset that they did like the dancing video. And so I think that like, you know, as much as people like also change their content so they won't get certain comments, it's like I think that we all have to be prepared. Like we're gonna get them anyway. We need to make sure that we change the environment a little bit so that those comments are not encouraged really no matter what the post is.
Oh yeah.
even from like Black leftist hype house comments, like it's kind of crazy, like the difference in comments that like people like me or Ray get as opposed to like comments that Yanu or JP or Gerald, like when they make informative content, the comments are like intellectually like they're involving like interacting intellectually with the content that they make, raising contentions, having debates, whatever. But when we make like videos like, hey, LOL, skincare routine, stuff like it's, I don't know. And then there's like, again, like somebody mentioned earlier, the whole debunk the ECP, like our intelligence is always being questioned and it's very tiring.
Who was the individual Matt? Who I don't know their app, but they were in Dem Hype House for like a minute. But I posted a video, not Matt, who's currently in Dem Hype House, but the one who got like run off the app. I
The one that got with Matt, the one that
Matt
just,
with Matt K. I don't know what their last name. They're
I
weird,
know
but
I saw this, Bella. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I posted a video like it was either one of my death penalty videos or the video about the Capitol being stormed, and I was talking about like racial issues within that. And they commented, "Hey lol," and I was like, "Oh, all right." First of all, like you have like a platform, like a huge platform, so why would you think that's appropriate?
Yeah.
Like if you have such a big platform and you're going through people's intellectual videos and commenting, "Hey lol," your followers are probably just going to copy what you do. And I think that's something people have to take into account.
Yeah, I did want to ask you guys. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say like him and a few other male leftists also like personally they were invalidating like my intelligence and like even with the situation with Rihanna, like I came in and I was gonna try to like explain to him kind of, you know, like the situation and everything, And immediately, like, I started getting invalidated. And that happened with a lot of mutuals, too, who were just, like, so unresponsive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys about like the concept of like power dynamics, especially on this relating to like especially what you were saying, Bella, a lot of the way that these people handle their platforms when they're much larger creators and going on there. So just any thoughts relating to the problems we have with like power dynamics on TikTok right now? Because I know that can be a huge problem.
Well, I think like especially when you're like a huge creator with like so many followers, you are influencing your followers. It's called an influencer for a reason. When you're going around and saying stupid shit like, oh, like under Rihanna's post, like, hey, lolling people, when you're putting out this like message that, oh, I don't have to like pay attention to this intellectual content, I'm going to do what I want to do, you're going to create an issue in which a lot of people are going to follow after you.
And then those people, their followers, like a lot of them may not have a platform at all, or like don't even have like a profile picture. So then they feel like because they see their like favorite creator do it, they start doing it, getting more and more aggressive because they don't have any repercussions themselves.
Yeah. And I think like another thing with power dynamics is like especially in like Zooms and streams, like there's like a sort of like specifically with like, I don't know, I guess like cis men and cis women, like I notice a lot between the two of them when they're on stream, like will act like very like, I don't know, a lot of femme presenting individuals are like very scared to speak up around, you know, mass presenting individuals. They will often talk over them, and like I see that a lot on stream, on Zoom. Like they're creating an environment in which like we can't speak up because they're always so aggressive towards us, and it sucks. It's hard to engage in political discourse when people are always talking over you and just disregarding what you have to say.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this a couple times as to like why I don't, but it's like I always talk about how I don't like doing like group debates or like doing like a 2v2 because usually the team that I'm debating against and usually like my partner is, all I ever get is just talked over. Like all the time. And I'm like, bro, how do you expect me to like say something when I get talked over?
I think it's really sorry, go ahead.
And it's like I feel like I have like expectations to be, you know, meeting because I'm like the only girl that's in it, or like one of the only girls, you know.
One thing I noticed, like specifically just from my experiences with debates, and I'm sure like all of you share this experience, is that like when, you know, like mass presenting individuals will like talk over me like a lot, then I have to like, you know, speak up and like project my voice more and get like more aggressive with what I'm saying. And then a lot of the comments are always like, whoa, calm down. Like when we're constantly being talked over, I think we're allowed to be upset about it. And it's not just like, oh, calm down and like behave like it's all fine. Like it's not going to be fine because if we continue to entertain this, it's going to become more of an issue.
Yeah, and like what I noticed, especially like on like, I was like, there was one time I was like on Yubo or whatever debating people, and like I was talking, and like it was just so weird, like especially in that space, they were like, oh, like you actually read books, like you read books, like you're the first like oh my god, I did not expect that you read books. And I was like, it's like annoying just like constantly being like having to prove that you're smart, like especially like femme presenting people. It's like a constant like having to prove yourself and like having to prove that like everybody just assumes you're dumb until like you prove that you're not. It's like it doesn't go that way for a lot of other people.
Yeah, and like also like a lot of things that I've noticed in like political communities, especially political TikTok, is like before pointing out that you're smart, they'll be like, oh, I love them, they're so pretty. Like I noticed that a lot. Like it's always the looks being put before the intelligence. And then another thing, like in my comments a lot, I've noticed this a lot, is where specific people will challenge me on the same ideas that my like mass presenting and male counterparts hold. They won't challenge them the same way they challenge me.
Yeah.
And like I'm all for being challenged. Like please help me grow, challenge my intelligence. But why aren't you going to do the same for my mask and male counterparts?
It's so exhausting to just look through my notifications after posting like a serious political video because it's just so many people making the same arguments even against whatever point I'm trying to make. And it's tiring.
And
Yeah,
also,
and then,
like the way that you were talking about like the ECP and how they'll be commenting like, oh yeah, ECP, like debunk the ECP, whatever. It's like there's like a very obvious distinction between like when they say it like to like male presenting people versus like femme presenting people. So it's like they say it with like a certain aggressiveness, like you have to
Right.
you have to
Definitely.
debunk ECP or you will not be valid. At any point, I will think that you're dumb, you're so stupid, your ideology doesn't work. But when it's like a guy or someone who's male presenting, it's like, oh, haha, bet you can't debunk. Like, it's a different kind of
Right.
urgency to it.
I had
It's like
one
with
person.
women, it's like you must do this, you have to do this, or I will not respect you. With men, it's I mean,
Literally.
try to do it. Like, you don't have to. But
There
like,
was
Oh my
this
God.
person. He's on Black Capitalist. He has my Instagram yesterday. I just posted something about anti-homeless architecture. He slides up, debunk the ECP. I don't know this man. And I was like,
is it Obezi?
No, what's his name? Jeremy, the Congolese capitalist, which makes no sense. But he was like, and then I posted on my story when right wingers DM me stupid questions thinking it's a gotcha. I screenshot it and send it to my friend. And he slid up on that saying ECP or something. I left him. I didn't open either of those messages. But like, why do you think you're so entitled? Like that's so
Exactly.
you're not entitled to my time or my energy or my conversation or my energy. Like it's so unnecessary. And they try, and it's just so annoying to have to like, and I know it seems easy to like ignore, like it seems like an easy thing to ignore people. Like even ignoring people and their dumb messages and their stupid comments is like takes a lot of energy too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, I also noticed that like, especially in like group chats, it's like it's very, very different. Like, especially like a lot of like group chats that I've been in where I'm like, it's like me and like two other people who are femme presenting of like 30 people, and like they're like, oh, this is like a really smart group chat. Like, oh, finally, like here's like the base group chat. Here's like the, the fucking like, the smart people group chat, and it's like there's plenty of other smart like femme people, and like sadly, like I love my boyfriend, but I'm only there because of him. Like I would not be like respected in the same way, or like introduced to like the same people and like have people respect me if it wasn't for him. Like, which just feels so weird to me.
Another thing about like, oh my God, political TikTokers when they have like a mask or a male partner. Oh my God, I feel like always getting held accountable for what your partner does if they're like masked, always getting roped into what they do is the worst. And then you're like, I'm different from them. Like people won't acknowledge that a lot of the time, and it really annoys me. But that's like a whole other issue in itself.
or they're like, they'll always ask about like your partner or whoever whenever you're like trying to do anything. Like they'll always bring in or be like, so and so hit, or like blah 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 about them rather than the content or the subject at hand. And it's like very invalidating because you're there to talk and like have these conversations, and instead it's being focused on your romantic life, which I don't see on masculine people's like timelines or whatever.
Yeah, I posted a video about consumerism like a few weeks ago, and someone had my boyfriend had commented under it, and someone had like replied like, treat her well for me. It was really weird.
That's so strange.
I was like, first of all, why do you care about my relationship? And like, second of all, the video has nothing to do with my partner, what they're commenting on it. Like, I don't understand why people feel the need to do that.
I think also an important conversation to have having to do with like misogyny and stuff is like how just impossible it feels to let people who are not affected by misogyny understand how it feels to be in our place, our situation. Because I don't know, for me, I just cannot wrap my mind around the idea of holding that much societal power and privilege, like as somebody who would not be affected by misogyny. And I think an important thing for those who are not affected by misogyny to consider is the fact that you really need to prove to us that we can trust you if you're aware of these things, if you want to change something, you need to show us that we can trust you. And that's not just me being like, you have to show me that you can trust me or I'm like dropping it. But like this is a real thing. Like I'm sure all of you guys have felt like betrayed, backstabbed, or just straight up misunderstood by people who are not affected by misogyny in the ways that we are.
Yeah.
And the fact that they need to like actively be a part of this, actively telling us that it's okay to set boundaries, actively asking us to speak up, actively including us in conversations, that kind of thing. Because it's really not an issue that you could just stand by for.
Right. And and again, this whole Rihanna Sun situation really disappointed me because I lost a lot of mutuals in the past week over this. And it was just like a lot of people that I thought were, okay, this person is cool. I had seen good in this person. Hey, this person I don't like the word ally, but I'm going to use it here, like an ally. And then bam, down the drain. And so I feel like I don't know, it was just very disappointing.
And just like what's even more annoying is that all of those people, or like all of those leftists even, they're like pride themselves on being like on having like a higher moral ground than other people. Like, oh, we're like anti-capitalist, we're like, you know, gender abolitionists, we're whatever, and we're trying to like make the world a better place or whatever, and we act like we're so much better than everyone else, while literally contradicting yourself. Because instead of saying, oh, misogyny is bad in all cases, you say to yourself, okay, misogyny is only bad when I choose it's bad. And when I think that it's good, I'm gonna be misogynistic. And then I'm gonna
Their feminism is conditional.
I didn't think that through my head. I didn't make that choice.
Yeah, and I think that like especially like leftists and like the whole like meme about like, oh, leftist men is like, it's literally because they see leftism as an excuse to like do all these other things. And it's like, oh, I'm a leftist. It's like, you know, I'm good. I like try and do these things. And it's like literally like, it's like low-key class reductionist because it's like,
yeah, my friend Levi, like Stinky Socialist Levi, we were talking on a Zoom about something, and they were talking about how like a lot of people will align with the left just because it helps them sleep at night. Like them knowing that they think that they're doing something that is like a good thing by, you know, standing up for people who are struggling. Like, you can call yourself a leftist all you want, but like being misogynistic is not a part of your values. Like, just because it makes you feel better, just because you read The Second Sex once doesn't mean we're entitled to like bow down to you and listen to what you have to say. Like, it doesn't excuse you from your misogyny.
Yeah, even with people's apologies after the Rihanna Sun situation, like it was really clear to me which people had actually talked to femme people to like understand better from our position why we were so upset, versus people that kind of just like saw people's takes and then regurgitated that in their own apology videos and like went right back into making the same content that they always make. So it was really upsetting to see that like some people were still even apologizing completely performative.
That's very true. I think it's really, really easy to tell who's engaging in bad faith.
Yeah, pretty much. So are we like, I don't know, John just sent me a Snapchat like 30 minutes ago, which is why I joined. But are we talking about like misogyny in general or just on political TikTok?
I think in leftist spaces, sorry.
Yeah, like it can be pretty much anywhere you guys decide to take the conversation. Like it can be like leftist spaces, TikTok, just in general. And then we also can expand on things like gender, because I know a lot of you guys are really well educated on that. And yeah, that's basically where the conversation will go. But we usually just let these flow. And then like if the conversation goes off a little bit, like ask another question or answer questions from chat or stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I have to eat a burger, so I'll stay on, but I'm just forewarning.
I'm also going to I will also grab food in a second. But like leftist spaces, I think it's so much harder for leftist like femme people and leftist women to get out their message without, like I said this earlier, without immediately people just reducing them down to their looks. It's so hard to talk about anything without immediately that being people's first thought. And like one thing I've noticed, libertarian men and leftist men discourse is so different from libertarian men and like leftist woman discourse. specifically on like political TikTok, it's so drastically different.
Oh, and another thing before I start eating, so it's also like they'll sexualize and objectify women presenting people without knowing that they identify as a woman. Like you could literally look at someone who's non-binary and like refer to them as a woman because you focus on your sexualization and objectification of women, and you don't even stop to think that this person could literally not be a woman.
I like even just now, like right before I joined this stream, what's his name? That Kaz guy from Leftist Lads that made that stupid ass video, like shilling for white leftists or whatever. Like I made a response video and he was in my comments calling me ma'am. I was like, no.
There was a video made a few weeks ago by some paleocon. Like obviously paleocons don't give a shit about misogyny, but like it was like I think that Olivia was in it and I was in it, Izzy was in it. Like more than half of the people in it were non-binary, and he was like, this is what happens when we give women the right to vote. Like I know you don't care because you're a paleocon, but like the fact that people are still acting under that like pre-decision that we are women is so annoying, and it's so common in political spaces.
The number of times I get woman moment in my comments.
I always see that.
Something I posted like a joke, like a serious. Like a joke video, like one of those like things where you edit the picture and it's all like bright or whatever. So I made one about like, oh yeah, I want to abolish the minimum wage, and then I was like, yeah, just abolish all currency, and the entire comment section on that, woman moment, that's a woman moment. Oh, women. I'm like, okay.
No, and like yeah, even like honestly, like it's so annoying, like the constant like criticism, like certain people like just like, especially post-leftists, sadly, just like take every like joke video or everything you say and just like dissect it and be like, why are you like this? Like why would you do this? Why are you like this? Is this? I'm like, relax. Number one, like the fuck, like yes, I like political opinions, great, but like why are you dissecting and like just assuming that like I don't know what I'm talking about all the time? Like why are you criticizing every single thing that I'm doing? Like,
oh, and also to like give an example of like when I said like there's a different urgency, it's like, for example, people will like, I get this a lot, just from like a lot of like mostly like a lot of right-wing libertarians, but like the ones with like the really, really, really severe superiority complexes who think like, oh my God, I'm better than everyone, and you have to debate me because I have to prove that I'm so much better than you that I can just like stomp on you. So I get like debate requests and people are like, oh, debate me on this, or like debate me on like the ECP, whatever. And I tell people, I'm like, I'm not doing debates currently because first of all, I haven't been doing them since like school started. And also because like, everything's been like way more stressful because, like my anxiety and my depression gets like way worse during the school year. So I tell this to them like individually because I didn't make like a public announcement about it because I didn't think I needed to. And the second that I say, oh, I'm not doing debates currently, they take it upon themselves to literally presuppose that I'm saying that because, oh, you're just scared. Like, you don't want to, like, get shit on. I don't know if I can use that word. But, like, oh, you're just, like, scared because you know that we're going to beat you. And I'm like, I have never, ever, ever seen that response given to a man or someone who's male presenting. Like, what?
There was a group chat I was in like a few months ago, and someone had posted, like, had texted in there, and they were like, Bella, debate me. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing debates right now just because of my depression. And someone had replied, oh, you just can't justify your beliefs. That's why. Well, I gave a mental health issue, and you're not going to, like, acknowledge it? It's so annoying. I'm going to go get food, but...
Yeah, I think the debate request... Oh, you go first.
Or it'll come with like a microaggression in the response. Like it'll be like, oh, it's because you're not prepared enough because you're a woman, or start like attacking like certain aspects of like my gender or whatever. I don't know if that goes for y'all too, but that's just what I experience.
Somebody in chat. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was gonna change the topic, so you go.
I was just gonna say, like, the debate requests, like, I noticed are, like, particularly, like, I have DMs from, like, people that I know do a lot of debates on political TikTok, and I'm not involved in debates at all, but, like, the first thing they'll say is, like, hey, dummy, or, like, hey, dummy, do you want to debate? Or just, like, I know I'm gonna beat you in this debate, like, let's do it, like, this day and this time. Like, you're, like, trying to come to me and schedule, like, a almost intellectual conversation, and your first response is to automatically go in with, like, you're than me and I'm going to beat you. It's just, like, it's really clear that I think a lot of, like, mass presenting people, especially on the right, are just not coming in with good faith at all.
And, like, another thing is, like, when they start calling you nicknames to, like, talk down to you, like, okay, sweetie, like, oh, Pookie, like, shut up, like, never do that again.
It gives the same energy as, like, non-black people. Once they get into an argument with a black person, they start calling us sis or hun. It's annoying, very much annoying, and very much, like, microaggressive.
Bro, and, like, I remember, Olivia, like, one of your videos, like, that you were, like, talking about, I forget what it was. I think it was like, oh yeah, every debate I've had to, like, explain what communism is or whatever. And, like, every motherfucking, like, libertarian was like, I bet you never debated anybody smart. Like, you probably never debated anybody smart. Like, you're probably dumb. I'm like, you don't know anything.
Every comment.
Like, what? Like,
someone in chat asked if we feel like there's a growing movement of misandry.
I wish.
Is that, like, a joke? Say something.
No, like, actually, because I know a lot of, like, actual misandrists on TikTok.
No, I think that, like, if you're not, like, trying to, like, dismantle gender as a system,
yeah,
not really, like, being helpful.
Also, like, a lot of people's reasoning for misandry, like, starts going into, like, weird turf territory, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I get if it's like, oh, I don't get, but I get if, like, you have, like, trauma and stuff, and, like, you know, like, some people, I don't know too much about that, honestly, because, like, whatever, if you have, like, trauma with certain groups of people, then, like, it's kind of understandable if you feel, like, uncomfortable around, like, mass people just for, like, trauma reasons, but, like, I don't know, I don't think it's really, like, helpful or anything that, like, really...
Does that make them a misandrist, though, if they're uncomfortable with something? Because,
I
like...
think so. I think it's just, like them being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because, like, I was sexually assaulted, and after that experience, like, for a while, I had a really hard time with, like, men and stuff. Just because that was just from the trauma.
Me too.
But I don't know if that would make you a misandrist unless you start truly acting on it in a way that affects other people.
I just think, like, a lot of people especially, like, see that and they go, like, oh, you're a misandrist, or, like, oh, you just it's like, no, I just, like, I've been, like, fucking gaslit and, like, assaulted and, like, just, like, you know, had friends or anybody that I felt close with, like, mistreat me and not, like, do that it's like, of course you're gonna be hesitant with the next person, you know?
Yeah, it comes from a place of self-protection.
I feel like when a lot of people talk about, like, certain issues and they'll, like, call people out for, like, gaslighting, things like that, and it's, like, a masked person, like, a lot of people will comment, like, oh, but if a woman did it, I don't understand how that's relevant to those discussions.
Yeah.
Like, I never do.
Can I answer a comment?
Yeah.
Somebody said, oh my god, misogyny is so bad, but misandry, lol. I wish not. Like, there's a lot of turfs out there. I think this person's trying to say that misandry should be held to the same kind of volume as misogyny is. And I see a lot of people who are not affected by misogyny spread this kind of rhetoric because they just don't understand what it's like to be somebody who is affected by misogyny, and they never will, likely.
Also, that troll, by the way.
Oh, they're just a troll.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people be serious in saying that too.
Yeah, and most times it's just like a reactionary thing, in my opinion. It's like they see, like, you know, people talking about, like, misogyny or whatever, and, like, honestly, I think that's, like, why a lot of people go down, like, the alt-right pipeline, is, like, just that reactionary, like, they feel like they're being attacked, so they, like, just project and be like, no, you're being attacked. And it's like,
people just want to be attacked.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll also say that, like, about the whole, like, misogyny and misandry should be, like, you know, held to the same standard and like treated as like the same, I guess. There's a clear distinction between like the effects, basically like the after effects of like misogyny versus like misandry. Like for example, like rape and like human trafficking and stuff like that is like it's like misogyny is rooted in it. There's been like tons of studies about it, but obviously there's like a much worse, I guess, outcome. So they can't really
Yeah.
standard.
And I think that's a good way to kind of bring up the oppressive nature of gender of itself. The fact that gender as we know it, as we interact with it now, is largely a colonial construct, and that it's just inherently oppressive. And we see this through things like trigger warning, sexual violence and assault and rape and human trafficking and things that have been around since the start of colonial gender systems that have just really been existent in order for men to assert their dominance and power over women.
Block Rob Snob in chat.
Yeah, I don't know. I just read that comment and I can explain it to you if you want. Like I don't know.
Turf Misandry arguments, a lot of them try and justify it with like, oh, testosterone does this, this, and that. Men have testosterone, which is like exclusionary to like trans women or like non-binary people or people that have higher testosterone levels but aren't men. And so it gets into this weird territory of like, not just like
it's very reductionist, it's very regressive, it's anti-science, it's anti-everything. It's just a gross reductive way to look at gender.
I feel like this is a little bit off topic, but it's still stemming off of that. There's so many like feminist arguments that people don't realize are like turfy.
Yes. Oh my god. I was about to say that, Bella. I was about to say that.
Angel. Yes. That's how I look at it. It's similar to the warrior gene, whatever, but like for men. Those are the misandry arguments.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like abortion arguments. A lot of the time they're really turfy. Like they'll be like, her body, her choice. Like, why did you have to specify like feminine pronouns?
Or they'll say like, like everyone who doesn't have a uterus has zero opinion, but like go women. Like what?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people overcompensate for like misogyny that starts to borderline into like turf territory.
Yeah, or like the whole like, oh, why are like men making like decisions about this, like in
kill all men except trans men, like
yeah, and I'm
like so many people will start to push that line where they're like, I'm so feminist that I like am pushing.
I don't even agree with. I'm not a feminist. I'll say it. I'm not a feminist.
Yeah.
If men got periods, yeah, like men can get periods and men can
exactly.
Or people who complain about people wanting like both like gender signs on like tampon boxes or whatever. They're like, this is like women's thing. I'm like,
or like when they tell us that we're being too sensitive, when we're like, oh well, why don't we just put like non-gender specific terms on tampons? They're like, you're so sensitive, you're so overdramatic, don't you have bigger things to worry about? Like that's literally gaslighting.
For the person that asks why I'm not a feminist, feminism has historically from its beginning been centered around white women.
Very true. Just like when people like, oh, well, the first feminist.
To pick something, I've been looking more into feminism. I'm really vibing with that right now, but I'm not a feminist. No, just feminism in general, not liberal feminism, just feminism. Even intersectional.
Feminism is like literally like basically liberalism, just a different way.
Also, you cannot be white and subscribe to womanism. Just so you know, you can't adopt that. But yes.
Yeah. Also
about the sorry.
Oh yeah. No wait. No, you go first. You're good.
I was gonna say about the terpy stuff. That's part of the reason why I really discourage people using language like masc and femme during these conversations, Because oftentimes when people say masc, they mean assigned male at birth, and they say femme, they mean assigned female at birth, which is really not what the words masc and femme are meant for. So it's really easy to even accidentally tread into that kind of territory, because I mean, it sucks, but the way that like colonial gender, like I was talking about, exists is like, if you look like a man, you're gonna be a man, and if you look like a woman, you're gonna be a woman, which is awful, and I'm against it, but it is the way that gender functions in society. So I just wanted to restate that using trying to stay away from language like masc and femme is usually best, but it does depend on situation.
I just wanted to say, and like, a lot of people are apprehensive towards neo-pronouns, but again, like, gender is like literally not real. If somebody wants to go by whatever pronouns they want to go by, I don't understand how like it would be too much for anybody. Like, it is an arbitrary line to draw, and that's the same logic that people use for even they them pronouns or trans people in general. And so all of that is so arbitrary that I don't see why, like, even if you don't, I don't know how you can like disagree with somebody's whole gender identity, but even if you disagree with it, like, I don't know. I don't understand how people have an issue with that, because like, people can pick whatever, like it's so arbitrary and it's literally not real. So I don't see why. Pronouns have been around for decades. If somebody wants to pick a pronoun for themselves that they identify with, I don't see why they can't do that.
Literally. And like Zero, to like stem off your like in class, like to go off that, like something that I noticed, like kind of diverge the subject, is like Angela Davis has been so tokenized, like not only as like a Black person, but also just like as like a woman.
And fetishized. It's so weird.
Yes.
Oh God.
Like, to see like
so weird.
It'll be like, I'll see like men like simping for Angela Davis. Like, first of all, she's alive and a lesbian.
Yeah, she has a girlfriend.
Yeah, like she has a whole wife.
She has a partner. Like, it just feels weird. Like, imagine like that's like somebody's great aunt that you're like, ooh, like.
Yes, literally. That's I just said that to somebody I was talking to the other day. It's so weird.
You mentioned, Shirley, you could identify with Black feminism. No, feminism at its core was made to benefit white women. It just, no.
Can I answer this question? They said, I don't disagree with their identity at all. I'm just generally confused on the usage. The usage is just like the exact same as like any other pronouns. So like, my name is Nyla, and I use like doll, self pronouns. Then you're gonna say like, so like the way the pronouns are used is so that you don't have to use your name over and over again. So if you're saying like, oh, Nyla left her house and then Nyla went to the store, or like Nyla left Nyla's house and Nyla went to the store, you know?
Yeah.
And just like Nyla went to,
yeah,
I forgot what my sentence was. Nyla left Doll's house, then Nyla went to the store. Like, it's not that hard. You just use it the same way.
Sorry, Drew. There's gonna be 10 people, so I have to leave. So can you manage this, or do you want me to stay?
Should we just both go backstage?
No. I don't know how to pronounce those pronouns. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you just use them in the same way you would use they.
Yeah, you can leave if you want.
And another thing is like, people also like have questions about like why people use neopronouns, or why people don't like she, her, he, him, or they, them. Like, they think like they, them could be used for like everyone, when it's like not everyone's comfortable with those pronoun usages the way that I'm like not comfortable with he, him usage. So people aren't comfortable with that usage of pronoun, and let's say like my pronouns were doll, self, and I probably have a really emotional connection with dolls, or they like probably like, I don't know, help through a trauma. Like, I feel connected to them, and I feel like that's how I should represent my identity.
Also, a lot of people, and this is like a lot of people, I'm a gender abolitionist, right? And so a lot of people are using they, them almost as like a third gender. They're trying to make
Yes. Oh my God. They're like, oh, I'm a trans ally, but you know what? I'm not going to be gender binary. I'm just going to make it work.
They act like it's a trinary, And so a lot of people like just want to be out of that realm in general because
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like people draw this like correlation between pronouns and gender. Like when they'll see she, her in someone's bio and they immediately assume they're cis.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah, like when I made when I was like, oh, my pronouns are like she, they now. You were like, oh, yay, non-binary, yay. I was like, I didn't say I'm non-binary. I'm still cis. I'm just like they them pronouns.
What happened to me is I said that to my friend, and she goes, "Okay, Miss Girl." Like when I said she, I was like, "Okay, give me a second here. I need to adjust to this."
Okay, Miss They
People are
them.
asking.
Yeah, when like it's like she and theys or whatever. That I don't know, something about that rubs me wrong.
Oh my gosh, wait. When cis, she, theys think that they have an opinion, like she, they, neopronouns are invalid. Shut up, you're cis. Like, no, shut up.
No, and the arguments they use to like be like, oh, like people won't be as accepting. Like people, why are you craving like validation from like other people that won't accept you no matter what? Like people are not gonna use bad justifications. They're gonna use it no matter what you do. So like, why cater to them?
Non-binary is not a third gender.
Someone's asking why it's not. I have a video on this somewhere. Non-binary is a spectrum.
Yeah.
This means that you don't conform to like the gender binary. It doesn't mean that.
I thought it was I would assume like more like the negation of gender itself. Like if you're defining gender as a set of like.
Also, the concept of having she, her pronouns and still being cis, you can feel like you don't fit within the gender binary, and you like the fact is you can use whatever pronouns you want. That's the point. Regardless of your gender identity, you can use whatever pronouns you
I
want.
could use he, him pronouns and still identify as a woman.
Exactly.
So people, I think, like someone asked me, like, oh, well, you use they, them pronouns, so why are you not non-binary? Like, why do you still identify as a woman? And I answered, like, pronouns are words. Pronouns aren't gender. Pronouns are just words that you use to replace your name when you don't want to use it over and over and over again. And these words are just how I choose to represent myself when you're not using my name. So they don't really say anything about my gender.
Oh my god, another thing that pisses me off related to gender.
Wow, that's amazing. These comments are great.
What I was saying was another thing that pisses me off when it comes to gender is like I see this a lot on Twitter is when like a cis person will tweet, I just called a non-binary person girl, but we all agree girl is gender neutral, right? Like Miss Girl. Like that's not your place to decide.
That is so offensive on so many levels. I've never seen anyone say that before. I cannot actually believe that someone actually did that.
I saw a TikTok on my For You page the other day, and it was like we can all agree that dude is gender neutral, right? It's like this person. Like we can't all agree that. Non-cis people can decide.
Like even if we culturally decide that those are like gender neutral, that doesn't mean that people can't be uncomfortable with those terms.
Exactly.
They are like associated with certain genders.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think something that a lot of people don't recognize in many situations, not just for this, is that like you can't come up with a one-size-fits-all way to deal with any given issue. You can't decide, oh, this is gender neutral because me and my friends think it's gender neutral, so it should be fine for me to say it to everyone. You can't do that. You can't say that, oh, when I say hey lol, it's a joke, so it's fine, because that's not a solution either. There's really not one single answer to everything. And especially when it comes to gender, something that is so deeply personal to each individual, it's really not possible to just decide something on your own and decide that it applies to everyone around you.
Yeah, and like, here's like another question that I would like to ask like everybody here, because like I feel like a lot of times when we talk about gender, it's like many people have different definitions of gender or anything, and like it's like your gender as like a construct of like like societal expectations and like norms that are imposed on you based on like what you identify as, or like there's like the feeling of gender, but like what does gender even feel like? And like especially as like a gender abolitionist, it's like a lot of times like like if you think gender is a social construct in like, or at least are a gender abolitionist, can you even like be cis? Because like you're not like the like you're not like the gender that you identify like with is like a set of social constructs. I don't know. That just like to open that.
I feel like I always have to like explain to people why I'm not like non-binary, because I like people see like they them pronouns and they're like, oh, then why are you not non-binary? Like why are you still cis? Now I'll put this out there that the only reason that the only reason I'm like really strongly, I guess, tethered to cis is just because of like the villainization of like, oh, you're a woman, like using that as an insult and using that as like something that you can turn against me, like my identity that you can turn against me. It literally just makes me attach to it longer, because I'm like, if you're gonna use this as something that's a bad thing, and I'm going to represent it, and I'm going to say, no, this is a good thing, this is who I am. You cannot use my identity against me, and you can't act like it's an insult, because it's just who I am. Which is, I think, why I feel so attached to it, because if things weren't like that, I think I would be non-binary. But like that's literally like my strongest reason for saying that I am a woman. And I'm proud to be a woman, so you cannot use it.
Someone just texted me. I don't know much about this, so I'm not going to speak on it, but someone just texted me and asked if we could talk about whether or not we think that being politically non-binary constitutes.
Sorry, what did you say?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Can you repeat the question? I think it might have been quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Someone asked if we could talk about, I don't know enough about this, so I'm not going to speak on it, but someone said if we could talk about how being politically non-binary is not trans and how it talks over trans issues. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. And I think it's a really complicated situation that requires a lot of nuance. But the thing is, the word non-binary is really limiting. And our language just isn't equipped to talk about these kinds of things, because English is a colonial language. Colonial gender came with English. Like the two come hand in hand, and it's really difficult to discuss these kinds of things with the right kind of terminology. I think distancing yourself from cisness is totally fine. I mean, I am non-binary and I feel no connection to gender, and I wouldn't say that I am anything close to being cis, but political non-binary, being non-binary for like political reasons, I think is fine as long as you're not speaking over people who are quote trans in the real world, which is kind of like a very oversimplification of the way to say it, but it's true. Like I understand that if I go out in public and a stranger sees me, they're gonna see a cis woman, because that's how I present and that's what I look like, and that's what people are gonna assume that I am. It doesn't matter what pronouns I use, what gender identity I have, the way our society functions is in a gender binary. So if somebody sees me, I look like a cis woman. I think that because gender is a social construct, I don't think it's okay. This might be a hot take. I don't think anybody is really cis. I think they just act in the roles of that gender they were assigned. It has to do with like gender performance and stuff. I mean, like.
Well, I think I'm watching the stream. Sorry to interrupt, but I just got spammed with debunk the ECP.
Oh my god! I don't even want to look at my notifications. But yeah, I think different communities have different needs, and different communities can speak on different things. And a lot of the time, I see people who are questioning their gender or challenging their own cisness, saying that they don't want to identify as non-binary because they feel as though they're intruding on non-binary spaces. But the thing is, I feel like an effect of non-binariness being treated as a third gender, because non-binary spaces are not going to be a monolith. Non-binary just means anything besides like binary male and female or girl and boy. But like, so different non-binary people are going to have different needs, and it's okay to be a non-binary person who is just you, it's okay to be a non-binary person who is just you as you are already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like.
But it's important to recognize that privilege, the kind of privilege that you hold.
There's this culture that like non-binary people owe some type of like androgyny almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's so odd because like we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Like we treat everything as such a blanket. Like no matter what it is, like it's really not that fucking hard to ask, right? I don't know if I can swear, so that's really awkward. But like it's really not
You're
hard
good.
to ask a person. Okay, cool. That's good to know. It's really not hard to ask a person, and I don't know. I guess I'm still unclear on why people find it so difficult. Especially when you're having a conversation about like what, I don't know, identifying as certain things really necessitates for that specific person. So I don't know. That's just something I personally noticed.
But yeah, going off of what Catherine said, whoever conflated, like linked being non-binary and androgynous is literally going to hell because it's so annoying.
Yes.
Like I
Actually,
say like, hey, I'm non-binary. Oh, but you don't dress a certain, you don't like my name isn't really like gender neutral or whatever, I guess. And so I still identify with femininity, and people think that excludes me from identifying as non-binary. And it's so frustrating to explain.
And like, yeah, and I think that like is really interesting with the whole non-binary thing, because like if you go like with gender as like, you know, gender norms or whatever, like that definition, like what's societally expected of you, then it's like, yeah, we are definitively turning like non-binary into a separate like gender, because we are putting like imposed like norms that haven't existed before onto those people and expecting them to conform to that, and like by definition that's gender. So we're just like creating another one for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, for sure.
People so like over gender, like I don't know what the right word for this is, but when people like gender non-binary people and they're like they like gentle them, I don't understand that. Like it's literally just enforcing that whole concept that non-binary people are like diet women, diet men. It's so stupid. Like it's not the activism you think it is to be like go theydies and gentle them. Like
it's just like us. Like that's the only way I know how to put it. It's very strange behavior. Like I don't know.
Right.
Yes.
Someone has they them pronouns. You're like go they them go. Like oh yay. Like, what? Why you wouldn't do this if someone had like he her pronouns? Like stop trying to like act like non-binary people or people who use like other pronouns. Stop acting like they're like children or like they're like a puppy that you can just like play with and say like, oh yay go. Like
it almost feels like they think that it's novel that they're even like acknowledging it, right? Like they're acknowledging your pronouns as something.
Like good for you, I guess. Thanks for the bare minimum.
Facts. I think that they're like such a like they think they're such a good person. They're like, oh my god, look at me using their they them pronouns. I'm like such a savior.
Like a basic human having like decency.
Funny story. There was a cereal company on TikTok, like a big account with like a ton of followers verified, and they had posted like a video and they were like first queer and non-binary like cereal mascot, and it was like for all you ladies and gentle them. And I commented and I was like saying ladies and gentle thems while representing non-binary people on a children's food mascot is contradictory and not the activism you think it is. And they responded and they were like, we have taken note, and then deleted the video.
Can I just ask based on that? Like we were having a discussion on gender, and I guess most people here are or I don't know what Melina is. I don't know if you, but most people here, I guess, on the left are like, well, I know you're on the left, but I guess in the anti-capitalist realm, I guess I would ask you, you know, do you? I mean, I know Yo-Yo has made many takes on this, but like how like they are, you know, conflated in certain cases, especially you know, Bella just brought up, you know, companies using I guess companies exploiting certain, you know, narratives. So I guess like, you know, how those are like politically like linked, I would ask.
Wait, before we answer that question, two people asked in chat, like whether like why like if non-binary is a rejection of gender, how is it trans? If you are non-binary, that just means you don't identify with the gender you assigned with your birth, making you trans, in my opinion.
Or Drew brought up this question. If you guys
Oh, okay. The colonialism history. Yes. Um,
Are they just about
like the history of gender?
I think it's like the language, like how we speak about this stuff is very limited because like English is a colonial language predicated on two gender, like the gender binary in essence. So it's like hard to talk about it without those like two things, without the binary being like ingrained in everything we say.
Like when y'all were saying like you, like Catherine just said, Yo-Yo said earlier, like the colonial language, like I feel like I would better explain gender and things in like my native language because it doesn't have gendered terms as opposed to English. And so like, yeah.
Oh, one thing that's interesting, I think that's brought up a lot in like gender discussion is like the Spanish language obviously is like a colonized language. Like we wouldn't be speaking Spanish in like my country, Colombia, if people hadn't Spanish hadn't colonized that. And people always are so quick to bring up Spanish is a gendered language. You know, it isn't. It isn't. We have YIP pronouns, which are non-binary, like non-gender specific pronouns, and you can add E to the end of any word and bring that up. But people are so hyper fixated on this concept of like, oh, you can't, like when I say like, oh, bringing up like the concept of Latinx is like disrupting that whole concept that we've built upon on colonization. People are like, oh, well, it's Spanish. It can't be colonized, so why are you worried about like non-binary correctness in the Spanish language? Like, just because you think it's a gendered language and you think that the Latinx is a good alternative for it doesn't mean that it's correct and that it's going to fit Spanish non-binary people. I don't know if that was fully coherent, but I have videos.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, yeah.
And also like, isn't like a lot of like Spanish dialects, don't they have like a lot of influences with whatever native group was like
yeah.
there?
Different dialects.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say like, I would say like, I guess like individual dialects, I don't think I would consider those colonial languages either, because like they have indigenous influences, they have African influences depending on where it is.
I would say also like in Colombia, like I'm indigenous to Colombia. My family's indigenous. I'm indigenous groups. Maya's mic.
Mike is that?
Maya's.
Oh.
I was gonna say in like indigenous groups in like a lot of South America and also in America before like natives were more pushed out. Like there was the existence of like 4th, 5th, 6th genders. Like we functioned on like multiple genders and not just 2. And people are like, oh, Spanish is a gendered language. Well, we survived off of something with multiple genders before, so.
Also, there is a question put in the chat: is being non-binary part of the trans community? And I'm just gonna like before I like answer, I'm just gonna say like, correct me if I'm wrong because like I'm not trans, so I don't want to like speak over anyone who's like actually trans or non-binary or whatever. But from my understanding, non-binary people are part of the trans community because trans is just basically not conforming to the sex that you were born as or like the gender that you were born as. So yeah, non-binary people are non-conforming to the gender binary and non-conforming to like the sex that they were born as. So yeah,
I would say it depends, honestly, because I definitely do not identify with cisness, and I don't identify with cisness, but I wouldn't go as far as to call myself trans because I don't share a lot of the experiences that most trans people have. So like some non-binary people definitely do identify as trans. You're not wrong with that, but some non-binary people would just identify as not cis or anti-cis or anti-binary or non-binary. So
okay,
yeah, I
think that's like a maybe sometimes.
Yeah, it's like a case by case.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of trans issues are case by case, and people so like often tend to just lump them all into one group.
Like, it's a projection of the colonial.
That's an issue with like a lot of things.
Like people wanting to treat non-colonial gender systems with a colonial lens is harmful, and it sucks that that's just the way that our society is, and it's really, I don't know, I can't stress enough how limiting and frustrating it is to engage in this kind of discourse when we're just inherently limited by the way our society is. And I think one thing, this doesn't really have to do with any of it, but I guess kind of having to do with the colonial nature of language, it really sucks because I see people discussing like indigenous gender systems and things like that, like non-colonial gender systems that have multiple like roles and identities inside of them, when those systems aren't exactly genders, they're just roles inside of a community, that the only way we can use our language to describe them is gender, even though they're not genders.
Yeah.
Because the concept of gender didn't exist.
Yeah, that was like if anyone's read the gender accelerationist manifesto, they outline that like in like one of the first few pages. Like if you're confused, like they do bring up like reproductive labor and the labor within like raising children, how the concept of gender is really heavily founded in like labor systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the most interesting parts of that. It's just like, wow, it all really does relate to like labor systems. I don't know. I just thought it was a really interesting like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone wants to know if it's invalidating to trans people and be to invalidate to valid. Someone wants to know if it's invalidating to trans people for an NB to identify as trans, and I think we touched on this a little before, but no, right? I mean, I can't really speak.
It's not. It's case by case. Like I know people who have physically transitioned in the way that most people typically assume like binary trans people transition, and still are non-binary. Like I know there's such a huge range of ways you can be non-binary. So it really, really depends. Like
yeah, I see like I know a non-binary person who was on like I think it's called hormone blockers, right? Like when they were younger, and like that's something that a lot of people typically associate with like trans people who are transitioning within the binary. Like you can still be non-binary and identify as trans, but some people prefer not to identify as trans.
It's all case by case. Like you can be non-binary and identify as trans. You can be non-binary and go on HRT, hormone replacement therapy. You can be non-binary and have like physical gender reassignment, gender confirmation surgeries. You can be non-binary and be a lesbian. It's really there's a lot of things you can do with that.
I want to highlight. I think we know Chris. Chris asked this question.
Yeah, I was gonna go back.
Oh, I just read that comment.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris. How do you go about using your lived experience in society as a woman for being non-binary?
Bug, you got thoughts?
I'd say it's hard to go about it because you want to like identify yourself with the people because you have a shared experience, but like speaking like about those experiences, you present that way, and you've lived like not always like shared, but in general the shared experiences of like women and people who experience misogyny. I think it's easier to just like, because language is not updated enough to talk about this in a great way, but like people who share like the experience of dealing with misogyny, it's good to like, I don't know where I'm going with this, to be honest. Like just in general, like specifying language based on like people who experience misogyny rather than like collectively assigning it as like not as AFAB or like feminine, because not everyone who like experiences misogyny is feminine or AFAB in general. But I think if anyone else has like anything to go off of that.
I think that's a really interesting question. I feel like most of us probably have experiences that we can like pinpoint. For me specifically, it happens in like more academic settings where like my word is definitely taken at a lesser like value than like a male counterpart, for example. So like recognizing those like differences in how I'm treated in comparison to like somebody that is like, I don't know, like more like I guess like a male or like mass presenting almost. And kind of reconciling that with like how I feel is definitely very difficult, because like it's like a constant reminder of like how I'm perceived outside of like myself almost. Like, you know the meme that's like, oh, I hate how I'm perceived, that, but like constantly. I feel is like a pretty good way to encapsulate that.
Yeah, like going back to said, like about like shared experiences, like you can have a shared experience of being perceived as like a woman in society, and you can also have a shared experience of being non-binary, like within yourself. So like you can, I feel like you could in some ways identify with both, like or at least like experience both things.
Oh yeah, I actually, yeah, I totally agree. I think I am fine saying that I have the experiences of a woman. Sorry. But I think another thing that's important to bring up is the fact that often when we see spaces that are meant for non-binary people, or even worse, woman and non-binary people, or woman written with an X instead of an E, a lot of people kind of perceive non-binary as woman light and exclude any kind of non-binary person who might not fit in their little box of what they think woman light is, which can be very harmful. Like if you mean woman, say woman. If you mean non-binary, say non-binary. If you mean people affected by misogyny, say people affected by misogyny. Like, it's really not.
Another thing, like I think with the non-binary and like cis person like experiencing misogyny like discussion, like just because we all like can like acknowledge the struggle of like experiencing misogyny doesn't mean that there has to be some sort of unity between people who experience misogyny. Like cis people, like non-binary people don't owe their unity to cis people because they've experienced misogyny too. And like I feel like a lot of like cis she-theys will go like after non-binary people and they're like, we're the same, like we experience the same thing. Like no, it's not the same. And like
yeah, it's really annoying.
There doesn't have like non-binary people are still going to be upset with like the treatment that cis people have like imposed upon them for like so long. Like,
and especially like yeah, like Asian women or like POC like people who are affected by misogyny are gonna have very different experiences than like.
I feel like it's similar to the discussion around like
about how like you can't compare POC women to like, or like POC women presenting people to like white women presenting people, because it's like our issues aren't the same historically and systemically. They aren't the same. They aren't like you can't. And people thought that I was turning it into like, oh, this is like the oppression competition. So I made an in-depth video about it. But yeah, it's something that people just like try to group every single woman presenting person into the same group and then say, we're going to come up with a single solution for people with different ethnic backgrounds, people with different racial backgrounds, people with different, people with different histories, people with different experiences of colorism, people with different experiences of like your gender identity. We're just going to group you all together because you all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's like dumb. And it's not me saying like, oh, this is a competition. It's just me stating a fact that we are not the same and our issues cannot be handled the same way.
And even with like POC unity, like I'm white, so like stop me at any time if I like, this is not my place to speak on it, but like different like groups of POC like are going to interact with misogyny differently, like especially culturally. Like when there's cultural roles of like how women and men are supposed to act within that culture, it's going to be different when like a Hispanic person's experience with misogyny than like a Black person's experience with misogyny within their own communities. That's going to be different. So we can't just all expect to be like united together in the same struggle.
Mm-hmm. Like I can say for a fact, like as somebody who's Asian in most situations, like I've been fetishized for my race. I've been asked to speak Chinese to people, or people hit on me in Chinese. It's like, it's just very strange, and I'm sure like not everybody is fetishized in this Orientalist way, even though we do all experience misogyny. So yeah, there's definitely different ways of misogyny existing.
Yeah, like in Hispanic communities, there's like that whole like thing about like, oh, the women will like clean the house and make the like Sunday night dinner, and we'll go to church together as like a cute little family, and like that might not be the same in every single culture. Like, we're all going to experience like misogyny in our own ways. Like,
yeah, like specifically in the Hispanic community, there's like a culture of machismo, and like it's so ingrained in absolutely like everything. It goes in from like how like your parents treat you in comparison to like your brother or like in comparison to like your uncles or anything like that. It's so like ingrained, and it's definitely very strange, and it's very like subtle almost until it's like in your face, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Oh, yeah, also, I think people with different like sexualities experience different levels of misogyny. So, like, for example, how like bi women or like gay women are like literally fetishized, or women presenting people are fetishized for liking women, or for liking women. What? So it's definitely a lot of different things with a lot of different solutions.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really weird line to walk, because it's either like, in my mind, it's almost like it's either there's a fetishization aspect of it, or there's a I literally hate you existing. Like, it's kind of like those two things when it comes to being like, I guess, for me, like, I've experienced fetishization because of my race and stuff and all that stuff, but then there's the other half of it, like, oh, like, I wouldn't even consider dating you, that kind of thing. So it's like a really weird line to walk, or to even like, it's a weird conversation to have in general, because it's not like something that's really talked about like openly, especially the fetishization aspect of it.
And it's hard to explain in like a way that like makes sense, I guess, because it's such a broad topic. It's like something that you could talk about for literally hours. Like we have like 9 people in here, and we're a bunch of different races, we're a bunch of different like sexualities, we're a bunch of different we're a bunch of different genders or non-genders, whatever. We could, like, individually, we could talk about our individual, like, the individual aspects of ourselves. So like I'm a mixed person, so I could talk about misogyny that I've experienced as like from like people viewing me as a white person or like a mixed person. And then I could talk about the misogyny that I've experienced from me being bi, or the misogyny that I've experienced from being black, or the misogyny, like literally so many different things for each individual one of us. So because there's only 9 of us,
Intersectionality.
so much for this one
Intersectionality. It's crazy. I didn't know until pretty recently that the term intersectionality was only began to be a thing in the 80s.
Really?
Wow.
When Kimberly Crenshaw wrote about it. So that's interesting. I have to go, but I appreciate you guys having me on the stream. So thank you for having me. It's a really good talk. So
thank you so much, Yo-Yo. We really appreciate you coming on.
Bye, Yo-Yo.
I appreciate you, John. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Also, hi, Lydia. I meant to say
Yeah, I meant to say hi.
Hi, Lydia.
Hi.
Yeah, so
Well, I wanted to actually talk about this. Like, anytime I'm on like Omegle or even at school, everyone always calls me like Mia Khalifa or any type of.
Because this. You know why I don't wear glasses? That's why.
I have glasses too, and like anytime I wear it in public, people always call me Mia Khalifa, and that's the only thing they say. That's it. And it's so frustrating.
And Avani, like, oh my gosh, look at you. You're like the Walmart Avani. Because I'm a mixed person. Like, no other reason. I don't even look like her.
There's like one person of color that they know that is like famous or like relevant at the time, and they're like, you're this person. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I usually get like compared to just like a bunch of celebrities. Like for me, it would be like, oh, you're like Zendaya. Like, you're Zendaya. You're Zendaya. Moana movie out. You're Moana. Like, I swear to God, you look exactly like her. Like,
yeah, like I just posted something that was like, I took a picture with AOC, and like I had at least 6 people slide up and be like, you look just like her. No, we're just brown. Like that's
this
literally
isn't like I'm not her child. You don't have to say that I look like her. Because we're like the same. Like, what?
And there's also like little to none representation of brown people in social media or in movies or anything. So like being compared to Mia Khalifa is just so frustrating, because it just diminishes anything that I even say.
Yeah, like I remember one time I just like somebody straight up just like came up to me and they're like, oh, you look like this person. I didn't know who she was. I thought, this is actually kind of funny, I thought she was Khalifa's sister. I don't know. It was like 6th grade was the first time that I got that, and I was like, so true.
So I won't I'm not gonna speak on this because I don't think it's my thing to speak on, but I'm just gonna bring it up so that I don't know, you guys can give your opinion or whatever. But I just I made a video about this probably a couple weeks ago, but about how the fact that people will call any South Asian Indian. So I mean, I don't think I can talk about it, but I was just
if you're brown in the eyes of those type of people, they automatically assume you're Indian. And there's so many ethnicities in South Asia or in Asia in general. So it's another stereotype to add on to the many stereotypes there are. But yeah.
I think we were talking about this earlier. Sorry, wait, how do I pronounce your name? Sorry, I don't get it wrong.
Me?
Yeah.
Lydia.
Sorry, I saw it's I can't read the I's and L's. We were talking about earlier, this all stemmed from this Rihanna Sun thing. I think I mean, you guys were talking about being compared, and that's awful, obviously. I think also I think you guys touched on this earlier, but there's a lot of people who are I see a lot of people that even people who are my mutuals that sexual is AOC or people who are it's just so weird the way that people I think Candace Owens was one of them too, or just these figures who are I don't know, public figures I guess play into I don't know how to say this, but how they how they I guess sexual is public figures, not only compare them to, but also I guess the harmful nature of sexualizing public figures too.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think it stems from okay, you're viewed as your looks before anything else.
This one too.
Especially in politics, yeah, no, exactly, and a lot of it is especially with the Rihanna Sun situation. I feel a lot of that stems from the fact that a lot of people, especially don't view her as a political person. They view her as a pretty girl that does politics.
Yeah, I think it exposed a lot of how women are viewed, or people are viewed on political TikTok. They're viewed from how they look first. It doesn't matter what they have to say. It doesn't matter if it's the most problematic thing ever. It doesn't matter if it's literally antithetical to the entirety of your existence. If they look appealing, people will just throw away everything out the window just so.
Yeah. I was talking about this on my Twitter, I think it was 2 days ago, and I was saying with my experience on political TikTok, I often feel I'm talking to a wall, or I'm very much reduced down to some ditz, because a lot of people compliment me on my appearance, it's very sweet, when it's the right time, it's very sweet, but when I'm trying to just talk, have a political discussion with you, and I've shown no mutual interest in you, why do you feel the need to still push on the fact that you find me attractive and are going to completely disregard what I have to say?
I think that when people are surprised,
everybody.
I saw screenshots. I'm so sorry. You can go next. I saw screenshots from a group chat where someone was talking about how they wanted to rail, and I was I was literally just having a political discussion with you. Why do you feel the need to bring that up and completely disregard all of my?
Wait, what did they say? I'm sorry,
I'm
not cut off, but I saw people's faces go What did the person say?
I said that I saw screenshots of someone saying they wanted to rail me, and I was I was literally having a political discussion with you a few days ago. So why do you feel the need to hyper focus on that? It's weird.
That's the same kind of thing with the whole Rihanna Sun situation, where it was people put aside the fact that they think they're they could literally insult her so much and say oh my god, you're so stupid, or oh my god, I don't agree with you at all, and they just put that all behind them and say, oh, but you're really hot, hey,
and
I think sorry.
Wait, hold on, sorry, I'm gonna go first. Sorry, love you. But no, I think the viewing somebody's appearances before their politics applies to a lot of people. I don't think it applies to you've seen it with Ilya, you've seen it with
yeah, I was just
whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the difference between masculine presenting, or people who are viewed as men versus people who are viewed as women, is that with women it's seemed as it's almost demeaning. It's oh, you're stupid. But with more people who are perceived as men, it's more praising.
Yeah, it's like it's more of a sexualization with women. Like I don't know. I find that like people like Finn or Ilya, like they get more adoration towards it. They're like praised because of it, and they're like their intellect is praised with their looks, like in conjunction with each other. While it's like women, it's literally just a sexual thing.
Like, I was gonna say that earlier about like I'll make like a wall of text video or something like that, or I'll make like a video like going to depth explaining something that's like, you know, I don't know, pretty intellectual or whatever, and literally I'll get exact comments like, "Wow, this is such a good take. Also, you're very pretty."
Yes.
Thank you. But
yeah, what was it like? I see like Finn, for example. Like I was looking at like how like Ilya and like Finn were like sexualized, and like in general, like I understand that happens like universally. But I was looking at like that and like how people would literally like disregard like Finn's like essays, right? But like hearing what you said, like literally like people would disregard his essays, but it wouldn't be in like a demeaning way. It would just be like saying like, "Oh, you're pretty," and kind of like, and it kind of be like, you know, it just be like gazed off. Whereas like in a way, like I see like under like Nyla's posts, people are fucking dickheads to like, it's just in general when it comes to like people who are, you know, making takes, and like when they're like, it's such a different thing that like it pisses me off when like sexualization happens in general. But like I didn't even realize like it's like in a completely different like demeanor.
Yeah, I think it's like this whole thing where people cannot conceptualize like someone being like, I guess like a woman being smart and like being attractive to them. Like I guess those are two far away ideas for some people.
I think when me, Nyla, and Peyton like kind of first got on here, like it was like the three of us were like the younger ones, and we're like in this together kind of thing. And like a lot of people would just act under like the presupposition that we were like complete rad libs, and like would just completely, they'd be like, Peyton, Nyla, and Bella are hot, but what are they saying? Like it's like, okay, like,
or like the fact that Peyton's literally lesbian, and people will still be like, "Oh, but you look straight, so hey, lol." Like, shut up.
Oh, that also like
that makes me so mad.
Like when people approach conversation with me, I feel like they approach it with like thinking I know absolutely nothing, and then they're like shocked after. They're like, "Wait, you know what you're talking about?"
Always like, "Wow, you're really smart." Like after the fact,
or like
surprised. Like you could have said I'm smart without saying you're surprised.
And I posted a video about like this. I swear to God, I posted a video about like all of these things recently. But like literally the other day, where I was like, finally, I feel like I'm sound in my knowledge of things for people to accept me. It's to the point where like I feel like I've read enough theory, and I feel like I know a lot of topics, or enough topics for people to finally view my points as valid, because people are finally realizing, oh, she's not just a pretty face. She knows what she's talking about. She doesn't pretend that she knows, you know, like, because I'm
so glad,
like back in June, I think, but it was like I was dumb. I'll explain. I was dumb. I was a liberal. I was stupid. I used like my body, my choice arguments, whatever.
Same.
And I was like stepped on just immediately. And that's another thing that I like really hate about political TikTok, is like the fact that everyone, or not everyone, I'll say, but like most people have really, really, really bad superiority complexes, and they take it and they just run with it. So they'll say like, okay, so I'm so smart and I read all these books. I'm not to say like you're not smart, but the thing that makes you look so fucking dumb, I'm sorry for cursing, but like
we already got demonetized.
Stupid is the fact that you say, oh my God, I've read all of this stuff and I'm so smart and I've won all these debates, so I'm not even going to attempt to learn from you. I'm not going to attempt to educate other people. I'm going to take people that I know I can beat in a debate, and I'm going to say, let's debate, because you're so stupid. If I'm stupid, do not debate me. If you think I'm stupid, if you call me stupid, if you think that I'm dumb, do not, I'm saying this because it will make me so mad, do not ask to debate me if you have called me stupid, or if you have called me dumb, or if you think that you're so much better than me. Because that tells me that you literally just need your ego fed every 2 seconds for you to actually feel valid about your own. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to actively learn, and I will talk to people who have different ideologies than me. I'm trying to actively learn, because I know I don't know everything, and I know you don't know everything either. But the thing is, I don't act like I do. I know where my place is, and you don't know where yours is. You act like you're so much better than everyone else, when in the reality, every single one of us, we're children. We're learning. We don't know everything. We haven't read every single piece of theory. We don't know. We're not philosophers. We're not economists. We're children. And no matter how smart we are, no matter how educated on politics we are, we don't know everything.
Aggie was even saying. Sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I find I have the worst case of imposter syndrome, like absolutely worst case. And I find that like with a lot of people in general, but like with a lot of women, there's such bad cases of imposter syndrome because we're so used to people just like not taking us seriously and not thinking of us as like being capable of having a conversation or like being like funny, like the whole like, oh, women aren't funny thing. I'm fucking hilarious. Like
No,
I don't know.
And like another thing, sorry, who was talking?
No, you're good.
And I was gonna say another thing that I've noticed like a lot between me and Nyla with our time on here, I'm sure with all of you, is like when people are like, "Oh, she's dumb, but thank God she's pretty." That makes up for it.
But how many group chats have we literally been in together? Where always like, and it's always us. It's always us, where we just get objectified to like just every single second.
Yeah,
and it's always the group chats are with the right-wing libertarians. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, listen, political TikTokers, if you're watching this, I've already seen what you've seen about me in group chats. Don't think you're
We
slick.
know.
I've already seen it.
You know.
Even if you're in a group chat with your most trusted, closest friends, I've already seen it and I already know. So shut up.
What was
I don't want you. Surprise.
What Nyla was saying about like, so Aggie and Zior did a stream, I think a week or two ago, and talking about like, you know, what Nyla was saying is like, you know, Nyla's like read up on like everything and tried to like, you know, catch up, and like the reality is that like people here, everyone here is like in their teens still. Like we're not really supposed to like learn about all this stuff, and it's kind of astonishing the fact that like people who are 15 or 16 or 17 trying to learn all this complex either high theory or it's like not something where, especially where you're in your childhood, you should not be doing for in reality. Like
so true.
Facts.
So
sorry, I
true,
just
so
saw
true.
Izzy's.
And
I I'm sorry, that was funny.
Like, if anybody that is like just starting to get into all this stuff is listening, half of the people that are on political TikTok that you think are like the smartest people ever, they're not. Like, I'm sorry to like break the bubble. It's just literally, and like I feel like this space was made super unaccessible to a lot of people, so a lot of people have like glorified it or like romanticized what it's like having all this knowledge. But high key, people don't know shit, or two, like they do know things, but it like deeply hurts them. Because like I don't know if like any of your personal connections have suffered, but my personal connections have definitely suffered. Like the way I interact with people in real life, it's really hard for me to like differentiate. Like this is not a political conversation right now. Like that kind of stuff. That's also
me
like,
literally analyzing every person's political ideology. Like I'll just have like a simple conversation with them, and I'll be like, judging by the way that they talked, I think they listened to some Ben Shapiro. I do it in every situation too. Like TV shows, I'll be like, this person's
Nyla, go and talk to like people on like political TikTok, right? Then like a day later, go talk to your IRLs. See how different it is.
Dude,
yeah.
I critique of revolution to talk to my dad.
Yeah, go talk to your family about it. It's a complete like it's weird. Even if you're like getting into like political, it does not matter. Like it genuinely does not matter.
That feeds my ego. When I talk to people who like live with me, or when I talk to my family members about politics, that really shoots my ego so far up because I'm like, oh my god, to them I'm speaking gibberish. I'm actually super smart, and I just I'm just like I seem like I'm dumb because I'm around other smart people.
Yeah, like comparison is literally the root of all evil, and that like this whole like political TikTok experience has just reaffirmed that to me in my mind. Because you're always comparing yourself to someone.
Wait, actually, yeah, facts. Bella is extremely sexualized as well as Nyla. Do people not realize they're minors? We are minors, people. We're minors.
Guys, my first ever debate on this app was on Nick Video's YouTube channel with Alex and Zach. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was really bad. I have a video on my friends only from months ago, but it was like with screenshots of comments. But like, even like first ever stream I did wasn't a debate, but like I did it with like Finn and Harry and like Ashley and some other people. And like a lot of the like I wasn't even talking during that stream because I was shy, but like a lot of the comments, like one of them that I specifically remember, and like trigger warning for like sexual mention. I don't know if anyone means that, but they were like, oh, Bella's like Medusa. She makes my lower area like a rock. And I was 14 at the time. And I don't know why people find that shit appropriate. Even during the Nick videos debate, my number got leaked and my Snapchat got leaked and my zip code got leaked and all of the texts I got were like, send nudes. Like, I was literally debating on systemic racism. I don't know why you find that appropriate. Like,
I don't know if this is like, I think this is like kind of has to do with like what Bella said or like goes off of it, but it's like when I've had like accounts made about me, like entire TikTok accounts made saying like, trigger warning, rape this fag Nyla. Nyla deserves to be raped. Like shit like that. And I'm like, I'm a child, bro. I'm a actual like a child.
Literally, like, I'll like make a video and somebody be like, I don't know, I'd hit though.
Yeah, someone. I get a lot of comments that are like, I don't know what she's talking about, but I'd tap, like I'd hit. I'm like, okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then leave. Scroll from my page because I didn't ask. And like, yeah, someone just commented on the video, like the amount of stand up and turn around comments I got. Yeah, I was a majority of like the heavy sexualizing I got when I first got on this app was like when I was 14. Like that's like a fucking child. Like that's young, and I still am young, but. Like all the comments were like, turn around, I'll pay. Turn around, I'll pay. Like, when's Bella gonna stand up and turn around?
No, like, Emily, actually.
Yo,
okay, I don't like talking about this, but yeah, when Tyler Bluntman sent his fans to attack me and all of my comments were so awful. I had to literally put my comments on like only friends can comment for like a week. I turned it off for like a week. Yeah. They were still commenting and they came onto my live and it was all just like it was all you know what it was? He thought that it was like funny to call me like Emily, I guess, as like a joke, like, oh my god, like basic white girl name, like basic teenage girl name or whatever, you're Emily. So all of his fans came onto my page and flooded my comments. Emily, take the L, Emily. And I'm like, and people were like, oh, well, people were making fun of the fact that like I stutter sometimes when I'm in debates.
Yes, me too.
And I do, and you can watch any debate that I've done because it happens every time. I don't know, I can't control it. And even like when I'm talking now, it's happening.
Wasn't it also after
There's always like, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, wasn't it also after the Nick videos thing that you got shit too?
I got shit after the Nick. Okay. Actually, let me talk about that one. Let me talk about that one. That's thank you for bringing that up. So basically, who was it? It was Nick and Zach versus like Michael Chumio or whatever, and like another person. I think it was what was their at? It was like that. So yeah, they were doing a debate on abortion and on systemic racism. Two topics, which, if you're unaware, that I do not debate ever. They're first of all, I hate debating abortion because it causes me to have panic attacks because of my personal, relationship with like that topic. And systemic racism, I just don't debate it because I just, it's not my topic, everyone has like their topics they debate and their topics that they don't debate. These two, I don't debate. So I was texting Zach like, oh, give me the StreamYard link because like, Bella, I just like to go onto like people's debates and just sit on the stream because it's fun. So I was saying like, okay, yeah, send me the link because I want to like sit on the stream. And I don't know, but Nick conflates that to, oh, guys, Nyla's gonna fill in for Michael, and I was like, what the fuck? And he was like calling me like every two minutes, like, Nyla, hurry up, get on here. Like, so I come on because I'm like, okay, you just said that in front of like 1,400 people. So yeah, I'll come on, I guess. So I'm sorry for being really dramatic. But anyway, so I came on. So I came on. And, first of all, I don't debate these topics. I haven't, like, researched these topics. I researched abortion back when I liked it. But then I, like, ended up having a panic attack from it. So I never did it again. But I hadn't researched that for, like, 3 months, right? Or maybe 4 months. Probably, like, around 4. I had no doc for abortion. I had no doc for systemic racism. I had no idea who my partner was. And I got shoved into a debate. And then and then everyone from political TikTok was texting me like, oh, use this argument. Oh, this argument, the argument that they're using is so bad because of whatever. And I had like Mark text me like, oh, use this argument. I'll just tell you what to say. So I was like, okay, because like I didn't have anything and it wasn't my topic. So I say like what the argument it is, and then he leaves, doesn't respond to any of my texts, and then they're like asking about it, and I'm like, shit, I don't know, like, so basically, I was like, okay, people are just like calling me dumb, and even after that, like comments like, oh my god, you sounded so stupid on that debate. What the fuck? I'm sorry, but that's so
You could
so
curse. You could
stupid.
curse.
That was I'm trying not to because I know I like to. But if that were a guy, like if that were like literally any other guy on political TikTok, I'm not going to use Michael Shumio or whatever as an example because like he's just hated. But if it was like any other guy on political TikTok, they would not have gotten that same reaction. It's like, oh my god, you're so stupid. First of all, I was having a panic attack while I was in there because I was like, oh my god, I'm in front of 1,400 people and I look like a fucking dumbass because I don't have any docs and I don't even debate these topics. So I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
And I was like literally froze. Like you could like watch it back and you could hear me say like Zach would say something and I would say, can you repeat that? Because I literally blanked out. I was not even listening. I was having like a panic attack while I was in there. And afterwards, seeing comments like, oh my god, she looks so dumb. This is like the whole thing where it's like I feel like I have to like work my way up to this like standard. So it's like the standard for men is like, okay, you have to have this sort of like, you know, this sort of common knowledge about whatever topics. For women, it's like you have to know like at least 85% of every single topic on political TikTok. If you don't, you're stupid.
Like, for men, I think it's like they're allowed to fail and they're allowed to like be wrong about a subject and they can go back and be like, oh hey, I was wrong with this and that's fine. I'm gonna go learn about it and it's fine. But like for women and like that's like it's like way different. And like honestly that's why I get like so much anxiety over like even just posting on TikTok is because like just like the constant criticism, it feels like I'm not allowed to like be wrong without like being perceived as completely stupid and having no idea what I'm talking about.
And then people are like, "Oh, well, why did you block me? What like unblock me? Why did you block me?
Yeah.
Or why are you deleting comments now? Like, yeah, you know what? I'm allowed to delete comments and I'm allowed to block people, and I don't need an explanation."
You were talking about how like you know the Emily thing, right? Like that Tyler Bluntman thing was. My friend M, who's in the chat, talked about like, can we like get rid of this like Emily perception? I'm sorry.
I talked about this during No
Yeah,
Nuance.
like
yeah.
Weird because like as much as like I hate performatism, it's honestly like I don't know. Well, like what you guys like thoughts on that? Because that I think is like a mass misogyny.
I talked about this during No Nuance November, that the fact that like whole concept of performatism has been like linked to the female condition, and like or like just like a name that's considered feminine. You know, like people when they meme about it, they use like pictures of like femme people, like. The fact that that's been attached to like women just kind of goes to show how people think that like everything women do is like performative or not good enough or like they're not actually smart, don't know what they're talking about. They're like, what are you gonna do, Emily? Sign a petition? Like, why not? What are you gonna do? Sign a petition? Why does like the fact that it has to be like a femme name like have to be included?
Right.
Like it's deeply rooted in misogyny. Like even if like you think surface level, oh, it's just a joke, it doesn't really matter. That's how most misogynistic things are covered up, and like. That's a thing with the alt-right is that they'll cover up a lot of like dehumanization with memes and jokes. You can't just cover up everything with a joke.
When people make racist jokes, and they're like, it wasn't racist, it was a joke. It was racist. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call and like just a couple weeks ago and we were just debating, like it was really informal. And this TikToker was like, oh, well, shut up, you're just a woman. And I was like, you guys talked about this earlier about like the woman take, but I just felt so uncomfortable and I literally had to leave. It was so awkward.
Yeah.
And it just ended the entire conversation. And he like they said that it was just a joke, but it obviously is more than just a joke, but
can I also say that like it's been a popular trend that I've noticed that like I don't know how to state this, that I'm not gonna say X. I'm just gonna say that past groomers on political TikTok that are happen to be men, or misogynist, or whatever. That whatever they did just gets like covered up, just because it's like, oh my God, you're back. Like, I'm just gonna say, so like Jonah came back to TikTok. I noticed that like yesterday, and all of his comments, oh my gosh, you're back. Like, yes, go bestie. Like, are we gonna forget about the fact that are we just gonna what?
And on top of that,
Even like when people were talking about the entire thing with like Finn and like the TikTok, I mean not the TikTok, the Twitter drama with like, the whole
Also
race.
Oliver.
Ava talked about it a lot. And people just blindly say like, oh, it doesn't matter what they did, and I'm not gonna listen to what they did. I'm not gonna like even attempt to see like your point of view. I'm just gonna say, wow, they're like really attractive, and they're like an attractive male presenting person that I'm just gonna protect with like at all costs. And it's like the same thing with like just a bunch of different ex groomers, or maybe still currently on political TikTok. Is like they just get brought back into the community with like, and no one bats an eyelash, like no one blinks. They're just like, oh, okay, yeah, like, oh wow, you're back and onto like political TikTok, cool. Like, are we like, I'm sorry, am I tripping, or did y'all just forget about like
the
cancel
culture on political TikTok is so like heavily swayed towards like femme presenting people. Like they're so quick to just like attack them.
Yeah,
and, like,
even with like
exactly, like, and don't get me wrong, I don't
she got hit so much harder than like male counterparts.
Yeah, like I don't support cancel culture, but it's like, but you're still gonna be friends with that person. Like, I'm not gonna tell you.
Oh wait, never mind. It's clicked.
Like, I'm not gonna tell you who to be friends with, but it's like, bro. Or the fact. Okay. Can I just say that there is like a strong, like I guess like burden of proof that's like pushed onto women specifically, or like, women presenting people of when I say like, oh, I don't like this person. So like I'll see a lot like, I don't like Kai, please do not talk about Kai. And people will literally straw man the shit out of me and say like, oh, why is he a fascist? Like, I didn't say he was a fascist. I said I don't like him.
That goes the same for E-word too.
And like especially like what happened with me, like not even just in politics, but like in IRL or whatever. Like after shit happened, whatever. Like a ton of my IRL friends just like went back to being with like friends with the guy that like did shit. And I was like, how are you gonna disrespect me that much to just like continue being friends with somebody who like
And this is like the same thing, like, okay, hot take or whatever, that Stacey is dad person, her point was completely correct. She should not have like name dropped or misgendered Finn, but like she was right. And so I feel like a lot of the backlash she got, people were like not focusing on the fact that she's literally right. And so
I made even though she misgendered, she was right.
Yeah, I made a joke like mocking her, but I had like clarified in my comments. I do think that white people are definitely the face of mainstream political TikTok. Like that's a huge issue that we don't like. And like a lot of like anti-capitalist like rhetoric is like the liberation of POC. Like that isn't gonna be done by white people. So like I don't understand why we're having white people like lead these movements on huge social media.
That goes into the whole.
It's like, trust me, I read Angela Davis, but like, look at Mark.
Yes.
I mean, when we had this whole thing, and I made a take personally because I was burnt out from the app, and I still am. But I was the whole narrative of the collapse of political TikTok, and I kind of changed my whole view on point on it because a lot of white leftists were getting canceled at this point. Where like we're canceled at this point, whatever you want to call it. Where like constant people get like exposed for things that like they're getting upset about, and a lot of people were saying this is the end of political TikTok. And I think what B was saying like that's in and also what Stacy was saying, like the fact that white leftists are the face of political TikTok. I don't know. Go ahead, Nyla. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I put my finger up just when I'm like, oh, I think of something. This is like my raising my hand, I guess. But anyway.
Even with like Jonah, like he's back. People are still in his comments and like engaging with this content. It's like y'all forgot about his inappropriate comments towards a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Or like, so anyway, yeah. When that was all happening, when like I was in Vermont, I just drove like 7 or 8 hours up to Vermont, and I was like, I ate a pizza and I took a nap. So anyway, I woke up and like 5 people from political TikTok just like exposed, canceled, whatever. And I was like, oh wow, okay. And I posted something that said, I posted a video that said like, oh my God, I feel like a piece of me has like died. And it was just because it was just because so many people that I thought that I could trust, or so many people that I thought like, oh, this is like this is a trustworthy person. This person is like honest. This person would never do this because they talk about this issue. So many people that I thought I could trust were getting exposed for things that I was like, what the heck? I never thought in a million years they could do. So I posted that video because like, I was just saying like that's how I felt. And all of my comments, is this about Finn? Is this about Finn? Is this about Finn? Is this about Finn? I'm like, I said 7 words. I said 7 words. And you think, oh my God, Finn. Like, oh my God, yeah, I know, it's so crazy. I'm like, listen, I'm like, also,
like, oh my God, Finn fans are
fucking
like, scary.
Oh my God,
they're terrifying.
They're always like, Finn? What, like, oh my God, like, tell me everything. Like,
yeah, and it's bro, I think I posted a video about this, but it's like, people also just, I don't want to, okay, I'm going to say this before I say this. I'm not saying this to sound like conceited, and I'm not saying this to sound like, oh, I'm so much better than people. I'm saying this just because I feel like people don't understand that like these people are our friends. Like these are our friends who we've like talked to, who we've been on Zoom, like private Zooms together with, who we've been on FaceTimes with, who we've texted privately. These are our friends, and people who like watch us, or people like like people who and like watch our content and think that they know more about the situation than what we know.
We're just texting.
And it's like, oh, well, I forgive them because of whatever, but like, you don't. And I'll say this again, with every single person on political TikTok that's been like exposed or like canceled, you don't know the entire story. We do. Not even everyone who's like a creator on political TikTok knows the entire story, but it's like, these are our friends. These are our friends. Like, we know what's going on. You only know what we give to you. And I'm talking about this with Bella.
Nyla and I were just texting.
I had an entire rant about this because it's so annoying to me that you guys act like you know everything when these are not your friends. You do not know everything.
And that's
I'm not even meaning to sound conceited. I'm just saying, you like no takes on stuff. You don't even know the entire story.
Jonathan, what's up?
What's up?
You were just trying to talk. What's up?
No, I said, am I your friend? No, go ahead.
Yeah, like I was gonna interject and say like, yeah, like Nyla and I, we were just ranting about this to each other, but like
literally I had an entire rant.
People look at the screen and they're like, we know these people. Like, you don't know us. You don't know our personality. You don't.
It's like, no matter how much of myself that I put out onto my political TikTok, like, I mean, not even just my political TikTok, but like on my TikTok or on my like platforms, I feel like I really do show my character, but you don't know everything about me. Like Bella knows. Like Bella is an example of someone who knows a lot about me that other people just wouldn't understand.
Well, yeah. Same with me. Like, people always act under this, like, and John talks about this a lot, like the dehumanization of political TikTokers.
Yes.
People are always acting under this like presupposition that they know us and that they know our struggle, like they know our mental health struggle, like they know that kind of stuff, and they think that they can act and joke around with us. Like, they can like act and joke around with us and like make these decisions that like, oh well, this happened, so I guess it's okay for me to do this. Like, oh Bella, like this is like this didn't happen, but like
yeah,
actually this did happen. Like, oh, Bella called Harry like typical Democrat fugly. Like we can do that too. No,
It's
Harry's
like
our
in
friend.
what I,
You are not
Facts,
Harry.
like
I know-
one Harry is
It's not
stupid,
the
that
same
means
thing.
nothing. Like, come
I know
on, it's
Maya.
Harry.
Maya definitely knows more than me about this, and Maya's definitely. And by the way, Maya and Jack are probably the most helpful people on political TikTok.
Maya and Jack are so brilliant.
But I made a post in about I want to say December, and so basically what I said was that people treat creators like commodities in a sense. They consume like people, so they like have like certain like desires because like oh like Finn's like the pretty one, like they literally consume people when like in a sense like there's no benefit, there's no like there's how can you tell like that you get any benefit from like this? Like you don't really get anything from it. You're just on the internet. You don't really get any compensation unless you're like Ilya. Like literally like I don't know a single political TikToker that puts themselves out there that really gets and like their life necessarily changes because of political TikTok. Like you can say for celebrities the same, but celebrities like lives change. Whereas like you're literally getting consumed and not getting like there's just nothing changing about your life. You're still a teenager. You still have to go to school. You're still doing everything normally, except you're just sucked into an app where like people like just take representations of you.
Yeah, and like,
I think we're not talking about Gucci wallet, Jack.
We're talking about Jack.
I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to like laugh in the middle of your joke, but that was funny to me.
Gucci Jack.
No, exactly. But like,
yo, you remember when we restarted the PCHH?
Oh, I
Yo,
got
hot take.
Group chat?
Also because the
TV and
Jack was like talking about.
I got
What was-
blocked
I
by
didn't
Gucci
even know
Wallet
we were
Jack.
talking
If you
about
follow my spam, I duetted Gucci Wallet Jack 11 times in like a span of like 5 minutes, and I got blocked.
Also,
But like what I was saying before was like, I think that people like what John was saying about like celebrities. Like I think that celebrities, lives change to fit that kind of like commodification and like consumption of themselves. Like our lives don't change. There's not going to be an accommodation for how this is taking like an effect on us because we're still going to school and we're still living lives as normal people. And then you come home at the end of the day, or like say you don't check your phone all day because you're at school, and then like the second you get out of school and you check your phone and there's all these TikTok notifications telling you like you're ugly and like you're so dumb, debunk the ECP, like you're so stupid, like that.
Yeah, facts. Like, let me live a normal life.
No, literally. Here, one time was really weird. I was like really like overwhelmed because of political TikTok. I just make a grilled cheese. I was like, this shit is not real, bro.
Yes.
John, no, not you with the grilled cheese. Don't ever let John make you a grilled cheese. He burns it. It's so bad. He doesn't know how to cook. Don't trust him.
Anyways, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but like, no,
One
but,
thing
like, I think
faith. One thing
definitively,
faith. Oh, sorry.
Oh wait, no, sorry. I was gonna say
No,
like
go ahead.
with like Finn or whatever, especially like what John was talking about like dehumanizing people is like inherently like based on like how the platform works, you're gonna be reduced to like what people like see of you, like that's just how it's gonna work. But I think like the interactions that people and like stan culture especially like perpetuates and everything is like feeling like that person.
This
and,
is
like,
so weird too.
Exactly. Like you like that representation, like you feel like that person, you are like that person's best friend, and like you don't know that person. Like that person is not your best friend. Like the interactions that like, me and Nyla or Nyla and Bella is gonna be very different than like somebody that I just met
on an individual level.
In my friend.
Like we are in group chats with each other, and we like can text each other individually and like go on phone calls with each other, and we can talk. We can like directly message someone if we have like a question or if we want to talk about something with them. Which like, and I try my hardest. Like I really try my hardest to make my followers feel like we know each other on a personal way, because I just I like people feeling comfortable with me, and I want to like share as much as my personality as I can with like my followers, because like it's me, so like when I'm like, and I said this one time on live where it's like I feel like my followers are my children, because it's like you follow me for for the personality that I show you and for like the stuff that I put out of my knowledge of things. And because like, I don't know, or maybe because you just think I'm a chill person and I think of you as my child, but you don't know me. I don't know you, but I feel like you're my child.
Another thing,
like, I know I don't know you.
Like I had this issue like a few weeks ago where someone was like trauma dumping in my DMs like so much, and they were like expecting replies, and I was like, okay, like just because I'm a public figure, even though like a lot of people don't know who I am, like doesn't mean that you can just like come in and like soon like act like I'm at your beck and call and like we're friends and like I've never talked to you before. Like you guys know, like you guys are, most of you I'm friends with, like you guys know, like I'm always there for like if you need mental health help, but like when it's random people coming in my DMs and just dumping shit on me, like I can't take that, and I have the right to block you. And when these people flip out and they're like canceled for trauma dumping, like she blocked me, she wasn't there for me in my time of need. I don't know you. Like I want to be there for you, sure, but like I can't. I'm like I have my own life, and like I'm not just like gonna always be at your beck and call.
Yeah, and it's like I think for No Nuance November, I think I did make a video about how like the people that follow us, or like I guess like the people that like may follow like the hype houses that we're in, are like some of our friends, like you view us as a way to gain knowledge. That's what you view us as. Maybe sometimes you'll be like, oh wow, this person's like pretty hot, like I'd hit or something like that. Or maybe you think like, okay, this person's like, this person's like kind of cool, whatever. But it's like, for like the most part, we're political TikTokers, right? So for the most part, you follow us because you want to learn from us, or you follow us because you want to like listen to some of the takes that we have, or or debate us or whatever, to like either learn or I don't know, be a jerk. But that's what you follow me. That's what you follow us for, is you follow us for knowledge. And it's like, I get that, but it's like we are not books. We're not philosophers. We're not economists. And I'll say this again: we're children. So you can't expect me to know everything, and you can't also expect me to be like, okay, I'm gonna like spoon feed you. This is exactly what you should be saying. This is exactly whatever. Because it's like, first of all, I'm not right 100% of the time. Second of all, I'm like, and I understand like other people struggle with like, oh, I'm not able to understand theory or whatever. But it's like, if you're not trying, and if you're just gonna like lean on us as like your sole way of like learning about stuff, you're not gonna get anywhere. Like I admit it's like helpful that like you're here, but it comes hand in hand with like doing your own thing,
And I think like before John said something, I love you.
Because like we learn ourselves. Like
I was gonna say that like
yeah, no, I was gonna say like a lot of times, like, I think what creates, like, the whole inferiority complex, especially in TikTok, is that, like, people, like, will come to you and see you as, like, the divine right, like, oh, you're right always, and, like, when you're wrong about something, then they're wrong about something, and then it creates, like, just a whole trickle-down effect, and, like, there's, like, no, like, security, because you find security in the other creator, because you think, oh, the other creator is, like, right, like, they're always right, but it's, like, weird, I am like probably no more versed in like this subject than you are, and like this is about like one book that I read that, like, of my interpretation. There are like other interpretations, and I definitively could be wrong, So it's like it helps.
This comment: political TikTokers don't know nearly as much as people think.
Here's another thing, like what Nyla was saying, right? Oh shoot, let me pull up the comment. Like I was talking about consumption also, like the Twitch streams, right? With like Alex, and like they're literally seen as characters, right? They're like portraying like certain. A lot of people like like thought that like Ilya was like angry and whatnot. Like people are like seen as characters on this, and it like really disheartening. It's like oh he's the funny one. Oh he's like, it's so like pisses me off because like I've gotten to know like a lot of people on political TikTok,
or like when people who aren't like friends with it, or like if you just follow someone like you don't even know them, like
and this isn't even,
you don't know them like personally, and you're saying like, oh, this person would definitely say this, or like they
but not like they're literally seen as like
no.
So like weird, and like it's not like ever like a lot of people like say like, oh, like it's just consuming content, and like it's not always like all stands fault, because I know many people who are stands like Mari.
Oh my god, I love some of the stands, but
And
some
like,
of them,
I think
right,
there's
like,
like a difference in like being like a fan and a stan,
it's
Like,
so weird, like how creators and like they're either like seen as like godly figures, as Maya said, like kind of like E-word was seen as like a godly figure who knew all, and, like, which is not true, and also like they're also seen as characters, and they're literally just like Alex just said, like to serve viewers, like the customer's always right. That's literally just fucking consumption. Like, it's so weird.
And like it was like me, Bella, Peyton, and Megan. We were like, no, and Sophie. We were like the group of like people like over the summer was like, oh yeah, like they're like this group of like liberals and leftists or whatever. And that's who we were. We weren't seen as like, oh yeah, they're like super smart. It's like, oh yeah, they're like, no, we were just like this friend group that people were like, oh yeah, they're there.
And like, yeah, to like go back to like what John said about like caricatures. I can't talk, but like characters, yeah, like whole like bring it back to like the misogyny thing. Like American Hannah gets shit on so much for absolutely no reason, and like it is purely because she's viewed as a woman, and like compared to like somebody like I don't even know, like I can't, like Harry or like
oh yeah
yeah,
it's like I disagree with their takes just like equally as much, but like one gets shit on so much more.
I was
than,
thinking about this earlier. Is like
so
when Connor like couldn't pronounce bourgeois. Like, this is not to shit on Connor, by the way. Like, I think Connor does it bad. But like when Connor couldn't pronounce bourgeois, if Hannah had done that, people would have been like, "Lol, woman moment. Hannah doesn't read. Hannah doesn't know how to say shit." But when Connor does it, they're like, "Cute, quirky. Look at him go." And like that, really, it's so upsetting to watch, because like as someone who's like, like I've talked to Hannah in the past. Like, we're not the closest, but like I consider Hannah to be like a friend of mine. Like Hannah may have really shitty takes sometimes that I disagree with, but like so does everyone. And like,
and she's a person, and we know, like, we've been on like the FaceTime calls and the Zooms with her. You like the people that follow her, and I know like she doesn't post a lot about like her like personally, but it's like she is so much more than what she posts, and it is so evident. Just if you join like literally just one Zoom call, like a single Zoom call with her, it's so evident she has so much more going on than what you see, than what she like chooses to share with the world. It's like just another thing is like, you don't know us. Like, how are you gonna say these things about us without even knowing us?
Yeah, and I think like especially especially with like American Hannah, it's like she was like viewed as like the liberal, and like that gave not only excuse for like right-wing people to shit on her, but also like leftists to shit on her, and like, and I think like just her like not only being like a woman and like viewed as a woman or whatever, but like also that she's like a liberal. And I think like a lot of times, like go back to like that whole like Emily performative activism thing, like it ties into that, and it also ties into like the fact that like I feel like a lot of leftists and like even right-wingers view like infantize liberals a lot and view them as like, oh, these stupid people that like don't know anything and like are just there. Like Teddy, for example, is a very smart like
MJ, very smart
liberals, but like American Hannah is viewed as like this stupid, dumb, like, oh, woman liberal, like.
Yeah, and I think that me and Nyla have definitely experienced that a lot, like over the summer when Nyla or like Brad Libby, like
when I was a liberal, and that's all I got. That's all I got every single day. You're a liberal. Yeah. You're a liberal. Like shut up, liberal. You're so stupid.
Nyla, Sophie, and like Megan and Peyton, like all of us were like perceived as like these dumb, stupid people. And then I noticed the second that Nyla, Sophie, Peyton, and I had started hanging out with Alex and Zach Cody over the summer, people's like the way that people treated us started acting very differently. They're like, oh, if these intelligent men can respect them, then we have to respect them too. And like
Alex and Zach were legit the first people that I met on political TikTok. I joined Megan's Zoom for like the first time, and they were in there. Those are the first people that I met on political TikTok. Yeah. And that's another thing is like when we were during like the like the Yemen streams, or like, you know, any stream that any of us have done with like anyone from Aporia Institute or like the old CLHH, like people are like, wait, they're friends with them? Oh, it changes everything. That's so wow. That's so shocking.
People see us as like these characters that like clash with each other all the time, and then like when we start to get along, people are like, maybe they are deserving of respect. And like a lot of my followers don't realize that. Like Alex is like a brother to me. Like I've known Alex.
Yeah, facts. Like, they don't realize like these are like my closest friends that I would say. Like I'd say, and it's like, I guess it's like surprising to people because it's like, oh, these leftists, like, and they think like, oh, every single time that we talk with them, it's always like a debate or something. But it's like, I will like literally say this: most of the members, most like the well-known members in like Aporia Institute, like Verbal, Alex, Zach, like these are my I will say this: these are my closest friends on political TikTok. Like I feel closer with them than most leftists.
And I think that like
it's not always like, oh, debunk the CP or whatever. Like they're actual people that talk like actual people, and we can, you know.
Like, back to like the misogyny thing, like with like Alex and how I'm treated with Alex compared to like when I join a Zoom alone. Like if I join a Zoom alone, like I'll often notice that like I don't get unmuted. Like I don't like if someone has hosts, they don't often unmute me. They don't often like pay attention to what I have to say. I get cut off a lot. But when someone's like, when Alex is like, yo, Bella's gonna join the Zoom really quick, like I get unmuted and I get treated with respect, and I don't get treated.
Yeah, like when I join Zooms and like Verbal has co-host, he notices right away and unmutes. Like everyone else who has like host or co-host could know me, but they don't unmute me. The second that he notices, he unmutes me or he says, "Oh, unmute Nyla."
Yeah, and like like stuff like that, like whatever. Love Craig, but like literally, like as soon as I started dating him, I was viewed as like an extension, like of
an
like,
extension of them always.
That's Craig's girlfriend. Like it's not like, oh
yeah,
Craig,
like all of a sudden, like wow, hey, you're actually friends with these smart people. You must be smart.
Yeah, and it's like
I was
now I'm
texting
taken seriously.
I was texting with someone, and I was like, oh, like what do you think you are epistemologically? And they were like, oh, I don't know. What are you? And I was like, oh, well, this is how I align myself. And they were like, what is your boyfriend? And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, well, my boyfriend aligns with this. And then she was like, oh, well, that's smart. Like, why didn't you say that to what I align with if we align the same way? Like,
yeah,
it's very frustrating to like feel like you have to like ask me what a man thinks or like what a man thinks about that take.
Or also the fact that like everyone or like all like I'll say more specifically like right-wing libertarians, the way that they speak is like, ooh, let me use these big words to sound super smart. And it's like a lot of leftists do it too. I don't do it a lot, but I'm like, I just talk like this, I guess. Like I just talk like a normal person. But it's like sometimes I'll choose to be an asshole. So sometimes I'll be like, sometimes I'll talk like sometimes I'll talk like with like, you know, all this like vocabulary and like all of this like about like I don't know economics and like philosophy and like articulate myself well, and then they'll be like, well, you didn't have to use all those big words. I'm like,
I posted a video on existentialism.
It's usually in response to when people call me.
I saw that.
I'm like, okay, hold on.
Yeah, when I posted that video about existentialism, and it was like a meme. It was like, does anyone else low-key think like this? And someone commented, you could have just said this. And you don't have to try that to sound that smart. And like all the replies were like, it's just a meme. Like what if she's actually smart, not trying to sound smart? And he was like, no, I know she's trying to sound smart. Like,
someone called me stupid, and I said that like what I said was objectively true, and they said you didn't have to use such a big word. And I said, objective is a big word to you, honey. Don't ever call me stupid again.
No, because people always expose themselves when they come at like the vocab first rather than like the argument. Because it's like you're just telling me you're stupid at this point. Like I don't.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna head out, guys. But bye. Thank you. Tonight was fun.
I actually think
Adios.
We're pretty far in, and I think that like unless anyone has anything else, I think we're gonna end the stream soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
John.
I just
I went on a couple good rants.
Like when referring to like misogyny, I think we need to like specify like terms. Because not everybody who uses like you say femme, but like not everybody who's affected by misogyny is like feminine or presents as feminine or is perceived that way. but people perceived as women are often treated with misogyny, even if they don't like not based on the way they look, but maybe how they act as well. So it's a big difference when you specify your terms. It helps include a lot more people affected by misogyny.
Yeah.
I think as a closing thing on my end, I think one of the biggest things is like representation. Like even though it sounds so like rad libby, but like I still like die on it. I die on that hill because there's so many situations that I don't think I would have put myself in if I hadn't seen somebody like me put themselves into that situation. For example, like my like introduction to most of like my political circles like near TikTok, I guess, was like Ilya's old Zooms, right? And the only person that I saw that was unmuted who was a person of color and a woman was Ziora. Literally the only person. And then it wasn't until like that moment where I was like, maybe I can like, I don't know, like talk or something. And like it was in that moment where I like started being like, okay, yeah, I do have thoughts on this, or like, you know, doing all that stuff. So like one, being that person for somebody and knowing that somebody is probably looking at you is something important. And like y'all that have like platforms and stuff, one, you get to do that for so many people, and that's so fucking cool. And like I don't know if like you yourself acknowledge it, but like everybody y'all know. And two, like even if you can't be that person for somebody, like at the moment, like you don't feel comfortable, just know that like you can be that person. You know, that's kind of like I'll digress, I guess.
Oh, this comment that someone just said, TBH, I think if men said they didn't understand the big words, it'd get treated as a joke, but if the women did it, they'd be treated like they were stupid. Yeah, this is pretty true. Which is why, like, when I was back on, and no, I'm not even going to say back when. I'm going to say even currently. Sometimes someone says a word that I don't understand, and instead of saying, like, oh, I don't know what that word means, I, like, look it up real quick. I'm like, oh, shit, what does that word mean?
Just because I don't want to sound
I
stupid.
know that it's
I know if I don't know the word.
reaction if I say I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Literally, like that's the
Not as much now, but I mean, like, I used to do that so often, and I was like, oh shit, let me look it up.
Yeah. Otherwise, this was an amazing stream, and I thank you everyone. Yo-Yo, who's still here, who wasn't here. Olivia, a couple other people were also here. Thank you everyone here for being here. Bella was here as well. This was an amazing discussion. We touched on a lot of things, a lot of complicated things as well. And I'm really happy that we were able to have like a 2-hour-long discussion about something that's important.
Yeah. Love you, John.
Actually, I really did like this though, because I feel like it's like rare that you ever see a stream with just like all people just talking about, you know, stuff that primarily targets women or, you know, whatever. You know, it's rare. Usually it's just like a mix.
Yeah. And if anyone has any last thoughts, if not, I'm gonna end the broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.